I might be like half a second off, so you might have to.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. I've never had any problems with that before. Well, it's okay, Matt, because if you don't know this, I'm your host, Diego Crespo, and you're here with me today to talk about Avatar: The Way of Water.
Yeah, they've definitely been waiting for our takes.
They have been. That's why the world has been on pause. Not because of that snowstorm that took out half the country,
No, not at all.
because they're waiting for this podcast to drop. Let's just get into it, Matt. Did you like The Way of Water?
Um, I liked it more than the first one.
Is that because The Way of Water connects all things before your
Um,
birth and after your death?
yeah. Um, I mean, I like the ocean.
The ocean's cool.
Yeah, ocean's cool.
Goodbye, everyone.
Yeah, I don't. Do you want me to just go into what my experience was, or do you want to say your fucking positivity shit first?
I have like some historical notes and such like that,
Mhm.
and I have like a lot of stuff about the filmmaking. And yeah, if you follow me on Twitter, which you probably do if you're listening to this, then you'll know I loved it.
Yeah, who could have
Uh,
seen that coming?
but it's kind of like a top three James Cameron for me right now,
Yeah.
and I did not expect that. I expected to like it a lot, and I expect that.
Hmm.
Apologies to True Lies, which
Yeah.
is forever the bottom James Cameron movie, I guess.
Yeah, I guess that's a debate. Do I like this more than True Lies? Because right now it is Avatar is the bottom James Cameron for
That's
me,
absurd.
ignoring Piranha 2: The Spawning.
Okay, well here. I used to rag on him for that too. He worked on that for like 2 days,
Yeah, that's the
didn't he?
thing. That's why
Like,
like I don't even put it on the list. Like he
yeah,
barely was involved in that thing.
yeah. Although he did get a lot of the underwater photography of that, which is like, hey,
Which
this looks pretty good.
yeah, it's the stuff in the movie that's like good.
Yeah,
But
we were so low energy with that opening right there. I don't know
I
why.
don't know. I thought it was going pretty good.
Okay.
Maybe I was just trying to recapture the feeling of watching The Way of Water.
Boo.
um, yeah,
Well, here. Let me hit you with some fun facts. So, Avatar was not guaranteed to have a sequel. The studio was like, well, obviously we gotta. And James Cameron was like, I don't know. I'm gonna go explore the ocean. And they were like, what?
no. James Cameron was like, give me all the money and I'll make a sequel. That's what really happened. Like, let's
I
not.
mean, sure.
James Cameron's a good businessman. Like, let's. He's like, hey, look, Titanic, most successful movie of all time. Can't really make a sequel to that. So, um, like, I kind of fucked myself because like, there's also those interviews where he's like, he didn't really make any money off Titanic because of like,
Hmm.
Hollywood bullshit. And it's
Yeah.
like, I guess if I make the most successful movie of all time again, it's got to be something that's a little more open ended. He does Avatar. Now you got 20th Century Fox being like, we got our fucking Star Wars. Like we got our own franchise again. Like we got this James Cameron. We got to do sequels. It's the most successful thing ever. And he's like, okay, give me all the money and all the time. And he literally just used like, and what are they gonna say? No.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Hey James, we got some concerns about how long you're taking to make this movie." He's like, "Oh, you do now. Hey, how much did Avatar make at the box office? Oh, $2 billion. Okay, now shut the fuck up. I'm gonna take as long as I want." Like, hey James, you're like exploring the ocean. I don't know if that has anything to do with the Avatar sequel. And then he's like, "Hey, how much did Avatar make? Shut the fuck up." Like that. That's if you want to know what happened between the release of Avatar and The Way of Water, was someone going, "I don't know about this," and then James Cameron going, "Shut the fuck up." Like, that's what really happened.
You know who else we might actually have to thank for James Cameron not getting replaced by other directors to do Avatar sequels immediately? Because that could have happened, I'm
Does
sure.
he not own it? Like, is it
He
owned?
might own it, but like these studios are just like they don't want to fuck up the relationship with him for sure, right? Because I think he almost took the first Avatar to Universal at one point.
Well,
Because the Fox guys were like, cut this hippie tree bullshit out of it, or like, we can't do it. And he was like, well, Universal's interested in this. Do you want to lose the next Titanic money?
Yeah. Well, there was also like, I think there was a moment where like they were just gonna straight up unload it to a different studio. Like, it was like,
Oh, really?
yeah, I remember that being talked about at one point where like the budget, they were like, we've put so much fucking money into the Blue Cat People movie. And like 3D, they're like, yeah, it's interesting, but there's no guarantee that's gonna be like this moneymaker. And I think they were like, look, like almost in a Warner Brothers tax write-off situation where it's like we can sell it at a loss and then we can write off the taxes and we'll break even on it. Like I think that discussion happened at one point, and then someone was like, it's fucking James Cameron. Like, cooler heads prevailed. Now, will Disney do the same, depending how things play out? I don't fucking know.
I don't know. Well, like, to the point of, like, I'm fucking James Cameron, hold up. He's gone on record on this press run, like, at Victory Lap, that's what it is.
Yeah, that's what it really is.
He's been on record being like, yeah, I don't know why they said the 2014 release date. I never said that. And I was just kind of, like, nodding my head in agreement, like, uh-huh. I never planned for that. So that's on them. I was like, all right, dude. I have to respect
I mean, that is a shareholders meeting comment, you know?
Yeah.
Where it's like, you have to tell your shareholders, like, yes, we're going to make a sequel to the most successful movie of all time. Like, because what are you supposed to say? Like, we don't know? Like, it's again, it's like, it's Cameron kind of being very good at navigating capitalist idiots. But yeah, it is kind of wild, the gap though, like, which I think it's a thing of like it was, people were like, they thought he had a sequel ready to go, and then it kind of turned out he didn't, and he's just been like like basically working in a lab developing shit and making this movie. Because that's the one insane anecdote I kind of heard was you know, Edie Falco's in this movie. Did you hear this anecdote?
I did, but
Yeah.
go ahead and say it.
Where Edie Falco was like, she shot the movie like 6 years ago or something. And she was like, yeah, it must have, like, she was talking with friends about it. And she was like, yeah, it must have bombed. I never heard anything about it. And they're like, no, it's not out yet. And she was like, what? That was 6 years ago. So, which, when I heard that anecdote, I'm like, how much was this thing just shot? Like, how much of it, like, you know, like, I think it was a thing of they've shot up to part of 4 right now, right?
Yes. We're going to circle back to why I think that is.
Yeah, and then did he fucking run out of money? But that's just wild to think about how much of this, because that when you watch it too, there is some footage in this movie that feels like it was shot closer to the release of Avatar than the release of The Way of Water. Do you know what I'm saying?
Not really.
There feels like there's some shots that were shot a little closer to that. I don't know.
You mean in terms of like the quality of like the VFX?
No, not the quality of the effects. It just I don't know, that there's something about the language of the movie a little bit that feels like it was made in a bubble almost, you know?
Okay.
For good and bad, I would say mostly good in terms of the visual filmmaking. It doesn't feel like, it feels like it's a movie that's a sequel to a movie it feels like it was supposed to come out in 2012. You know what I'm saying?
I agree with that.
I'm not saying like that's not a negative, I guess, is what I'm saying.
No. I mean, last time, even though you were negative on Avatar, you and I definitely agreed that, you know, it comes in at the tail end of what I think many people consider now kind of like the height of Hollywood's blockbuster power, right? Like the blockbusters of the 2000s and 2000, like early 2010s, like, or maybe just the 2000s, like they looked like $300 million worth. Now you see $300 million movies and you're like, oh, we're still doing Ant-Man?
Yeah.
Which
God,
is like
what a
depressing.
fucking bummer to see both the Ant-Man and Guardians trailer before this.
Oh, did you see the Guardians trailer before this finally? Okay.
Yeah.
I think it looks good, but I also think it's like radically just visually not up to par, which
Yeah.
is shocking compared to Volume 2, which is at least
I mean,
like
it could always
colorful.
be like the effects aren't done or some shit. I don't fucking know, but
Yeah, yeah. But the Ant-Man one specifically, that was a real like that was a real kick to the groin
it's
moment
a
where I was
like
like, oof.
it's one of those where like I might as well be watching nothing. Like,
Well, I think I compared it to like, you're watching Major League Baseball,
mm.
and then they bring out the kid from like the Make a Wish Foundation, and it's like, good job, buddy, you tried, and
Um,
and then they go away forever.
yeah, well, it's like they bring out the kid from the Make a Wish Foundation, and then you remember, wait a minute, that's not a kid from the Make a Wish Foundation. That's the mascot for one of the most powerful companies on earth, with
Yeah,
all the money at their disposal.
and they just lied to
Yeah,
us.
they just lied to us, and this is all they could do.
Hmm.
And then you sit through a movie, and it was like, oh, this is what you can actually do with money.
Yeah. Did you also see the
I
Oppenheimer
saw
trailer?
Oppenheimer, which looks great.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, sandwiched between the Oppenheimer trailer and Avatar The Way of Water, which no one will argue this movie doesn't look like just unbelievable. It looks like they shot it on an alien planet,
mm,
you know? And I was like, Ant-Man's here too. It's like, oh, dude, apologies to Paul Rudd.
yeah,
Not that he needs my sympathy.
that was
He's
the
one
only
of
thing I
the
watched.
richest actors on the planet.
The only thing I got from that trailer was like, it is kind of nuts that Paul Rudd is now like an international superstar.
Yeah.
Like that is weird because he
And
played Ant Man.
this is the last thing because I have a note about this very idea too. Like, let's not just spend time criticizing reactions to criticism. There's like this cyclical nature to
Mm.
like, well, I didn't like the way you criticized this movie or you praised this movie, so now I need to go in on that criticism. Like,
Mm.
at what point are we just defending or attacking opinions instead of talking about the art? But I will say that like, don't people go to the Ant-Man movies because they're like cute little family adventure films? Like,
Mm.
not like you're just doing like the other Marvel shit. Like, not that the other ones didn't obviously rub up against that too, but they have their own like failings.
Yeah.
This one is just, it looks like, oh, we're just doing like Endgame but with Ant-Man,
Mm.
which
Well,
is like
it's
whatever.
amazing because here's the thing about superheroes. Every superhero is just a gimmick, right? Like
Hmm.
it's like, what if robot suit? What if strong guy? What if could shrink? Right? Like that's it.
Hmm.
They're all just gimmicks, and it's amazing to watch how the gimmick becomes completely irrelevant over all of the franchises. You know,
Yep.
like it might as well be anything at this point. Like it might as well be Loki in Ant-Man, right? It
Uh-huh.
has nothing. There's no like what is it? And just like I don't know. It's like if
Yeah.
Batman just started like flying around and like throwing people through buildings in a Batman sequel or something. It's like no, he doesn't. He has no bat qualities anymore. But whatever. Yeah, it didn't look good. I saw John Wick 4. I saw that trailer too.
Hmm.
And to me, those movies should be like the baseline of what blockbuster movies should look like. You
Yeah.
know?
Well, they're doing them with like a quarter of the budgets of the Marvel
Yeah,
movies too.
exactly. Like
Yeah.
it's like that's what we should be like. Okay, it looks good enough, right? Like
Hmm.
that should be good enough, and then the movie just kind of stands on all the other elements. Whereas, and
Yeah.
then you get
Yeah.
these fucking Ant-Man movies that are just, ugh, I don't know. Did they
Well,
even do
here's
anything with the size changing stuff in Ant-Man past the first one?
uh well, in Ant-Man and the Wasp, they shrink and then
Yeah,
they grow and then they punch and then that's kind of it,
yeah. Like,
which is like just so boring.
isn't that like? Don't you want to be like, oh, he's Ant-Man, and he's like, how do I get through this locked door? Oh, I can shrink and get through the lock. Like, isn't that the movie you're supposed to make?
Yeah.
I know that. I know you're sitting there going, "That's not that interesting," and I'm like, "You're right," but like that's you're making an Ant-Man movie. Fucking do
So
that.
naturally, his third movie is like an inner space movie.
Yeah,
Which, I gotta be honest, not the worst, like, baseline
Yeah,
concept,
it
but...
didn't inner space, like, they went like a human body in that, right?
yeah, they get, like, fucking weird with
It's
it.
it's Fantastic Voyage.
Yeah, also watch Inner
Yeah.
Space.
What if? All right.
Joe Dante's Ant-Man, I know,
No,
yes.
no, no, no. Here's something. So, like, the only positive of a shared universe like Marvel, right, is
Hmm.
that you can kind of bring in a really weird, outlandish character, and it's not like that jarring, right? You
Hmm.
know, like you can kind of like, oh, they exist in the same universe because it's a shared universe, and you can kind of expect the audience to understand that that is like a rule, right? That, oh,
Hmm.
there's like gods and shit in this universe where there's also an Ant-Man, correct?
Yes.
So like there's like gods, there's like Thor, right? He's a god, right?
Hmm.
What if Thor got like sick with some weird disease and they don't know what to do? And Ant-Man's like, well, I'll shrink and I'll go in his body, Fantastic Voyage style, to save Thor's life. And like because he's a god, like his body's really weird, right?
Hmm.
There's a movie. That's like a story you could tell. And it wouldn't be that jarring a setup,
Yeah.
And you kind of have some fun with it. And so like there's a story. I feel like that's a very obvious route to take this. You follow me?
I do.
Instead of doing a space opera in a tiny universe.
I don't know, they're not allowed to get interesting.
Yeah. Well, no,
That's really
I,
the
I
thing.
know why it doesn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, there's, they could be making good movies.
Hmm.
They really could, but they choose not to actively. And, it's like, oh, Iron Man, he builds a new suit every movie. Like, that's the plots of your Iron Man movies. Like, there you go.
Yeah.
And instead, it's like, what if he had a gulag and joined up with the government for some reason, and then fought Captain America, and then they got and they recreate the cover of Civil War, whatever.
But they also recreate the cover, which is iconic with the heroes scattered around them. From a bad story, mind you, but iconic nonetheless. And instead, they just replicate it in a concrete basement.
Yeah,
That's like that was kind of the moment where I was like, oh shit, everyone's
like
right about
I
these.
honestly don't want to be like, you can't do an action scene with superheroes at an airport. Like, I don't want to like that feels a little too dismissive.
Hmm.
But also, why an airport? Like,
Like at the very least, like do interesting shit with it. Because even when there's like, okay, there's a bunch on the tarmac, a bunch in the actual airport,
mhm,
right? Like it's kind of like the most boring version of all those
yeah.
setups. Like the fights could have taken place anywhere.
Also, is it all right? It's also a movie about like, do we regulate superheroes or not? Right?
Hmm.
Like that's allegedly what the movie's about on some level. Um, a fight in an airport feels like a good way to have like, oh no, there's civilians in the crossfire of these superheroes fighting. What do we do? Like, what if like Air France is like, we don't understand your emergency message, and we're gonna try and land on the tarmac where it looks like things are happening, and then it's like, oh no, we have to stop fighting for like half a second to save this plane. But like, there's like a lot of tension, right? Because it's like
Hmm.
the moment they save this plane, they're gonna go right back to fighting. But like for this moment, they're like, all right, we got to drop what we're doing and save these people. Like that's a thing you could do. It'd be fun.
It would be.
It
It
would
would be
be.
fun.
But how about when he took Captain America's shield? Spider-Man did it. Remember when that happened?
I remember when that used to make me excited.
Remember when he just went to Peter's apartment and was like, "Hey, be on my side."
Be on my side or I'll blackmail you.
Yeah. Um. I'm like,
Which goes completely like uncritically recognized
yeah.
by the franchise.
Yeah.
He's mourning that he killed this woman's son, and then he recruits another child soldier.
It's almost like they weren't really thinking about these things.
You know who is thinking about the dynamics of adults and children is James Cameron.
Yeah.
In all of his sequels, that's kind of his move.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is, Matt?
Because it's really easy. Actually, here's something. Is this the first one, though, where... Because a lot of the time you watch his movies, right? And there's kind of a, like... By the end of the movie, a family unit is put together, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Terminator 2, Aliens, I'm sure something else. But
no, it's those two. It's those two.
But, like, this is the first one, though, where, like, the family is formed at the start, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got True Lies in there, but True Lies is kind of about, like, a dysfunctional family and kind of how to make that unit work. And it turns out to make it work is to be honest with your wife after gaslighting her for 2 hours.
And kiss in front of a nuclear explosion.
Yeah, that's the best.
What fucking insane.
And have your best friend be Tom Arnold for some reason.
What a fucking pairing.
Yeah. It's just crazy to think that James Cameron has worked with Tom Arnold.
Yeah, what was that like?
I mean, they haven't worked together again.
Yeah, there you go.
But who knows? They were supposed to do a True Lies sequel.
Yeah, which is so funny.
Yeah, it was one of those, like, I think that was him trying to do another franchise film, and then 9/11 happened, and he's like, we're never doing that.
He's like, from the bottom of my heart, everyone, my bad.
Yeah. So it's this Way of Water is a little different, where it's like it's very much family units that are already established by the start of the movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which, you know, a little different for him.
It is.
It's like we kind of get a window into maybe what his Alien 3 would have looked like.
Yeah.
Which would have...
I never considered that.
Which apparently would have been Aliens, but a little longer.
No.
But, hey. Because he doesn't... Actually, it's weird. He's only done one other sequel before this, like, to his own movie, which is interesting to think about.
Yeah, like, he's just, he doesn't just go out and try to make anything, which, you know, he was able to kind of, like, capitalize off the success of Terminator and, like, pivot into that stuff, which, you know, which is commendable. Because a lot of people get caught up in the machine, and it's like, oh, wow, what's the director of Short Term 12 going to do with the rest of their career? And then you're like, oh.
What did the director of Short Term 12 do? I don't know what joke you're making.
Oh, he made a couple other independent films. One with Michael B. Jordan that's actually pretty solid. And then now he's doing Shang-Chi and Shang-Chi 2. And yeah.
I saw that movie.
Some people did.
Yeah.
Some people sure did. And he's also doing Avengers Kang Dynasty.
That'll be good.
Anyways, James Cameron also had some choice words about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and he was like, all the characters, all the protagonists, the heroes, they just act like college students. Like, what do they care about? And that, like, broke people's brains because no one can take criticisms of those movies. But it's like, I don't know, even if I, like, love those movies, wouldn't you want them to be, like, sturdier?
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't you want the characters to be more defined? And, like, you want to feel what they want to protect and, like, fight against?
Or wouldn't you want a diversity of characters in a shared universe?
Yeah,
with different
that is why people like the comics, you know?
Yeah. Well, no, but to be fair, the Marvel comics also kind of keep all their characters in a state of arrested development. But
I was just talking about this over Christmas, too, with a cousin. I was like, yeah, like, I love Spider-Man. Everyone knows I love Spider-Man. I don't really get anything out of Spider-Man comics anymore because he's in that state of arrested development.
Yeah.
You know who isn't? A fucking Eddie Brock Venom for some reason. The fuck is that about?
Well,
why is that the most interesting Spider-Man character?
The only reason that happens is because when Venom first showed up, he was basically not a character.
Yeah.
Like, when that
so he's
happens,
like infinitely malleable.
Yeah, and then the original guy leaves because he's like, I hate the fucking Marvel comic plantations. I'm going to start my own plantations and exploit artists and shit. When that guy leaves, and then basically it's like, well, now we have Venom, he makes he makes us a shit ton of money anytime we put him on the cover of something. Like, someone figure out something to do with it, and then you just keep passing him to different writers with completely different takes.
Yeah.
And so it leads to a character that changes over time. And instead, like, Spider-Man is one of those characters where, like, Dan Slott, is he still writing?
He is back to writing
Yeah, I'm
Spider-Man.
thinking of, like,
it's not this year, next year. I
yeah,
believe.
he, like, wrote him for, like, over a decade, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he left, and then he came back.
Like, if that's not a sign of everything wrong with comics, and that's not even anything against him,
Yeah.
whatever, right?
Like, I'm sure he wrote
But
some fine stories, you know.
he did. He's got, like, he's kind of the Robert Kirkman thing, where it's like, man, he's got, like, this exciting start to this story, or, like, this interesting potential, and then you realize the narrative engine is just kind of like the pitch, and you're like, oh, you shouldn't be on something that long, you know? That's why, like, Oblivion Song is my favorite Robert Kirkman comic now. It's like 36 issues, you're in, you're out, versus, like, Invincible and The Walking Dead, where by the end you're like, man, you did not know where to take this.
But it's also kind of why Jessica Jones ends up being, like, a really interesting Marvel character, you know? Because, like, they kind of, like, you know, whatever, like, people, like, aren't giant fans of Brian Michael Bendis' writing, which I understand. But we do see her go from, like, she's different, like, we see her, like, basically the whole arc of her life, at least for a while. I don't know what she's up to these days. But, you know, she, like, gets pregnant at a certain point, like, which, when does that happen in Marvel Comics?
Yeah.
Like, and then you got something like Peter Parker, where it's like, he's still in a, like, I love MJ, but, like, what am I gonna do situation, you know? And, like, they literally had to bring the devil in to undo that marriage just so shit would not change. And it's like, don't you want to see Spider-Man, like, become a father? But, you know?
Yeah.
And I guess it's that thing of, like, well, if we do that, we're eventually going to have to end Peter, like, he's going to have to, like, stop being Spider-Man at some point. I'm like, that's totally fine.
Yeah, it's like they just can't handle that because of the brand or whatever. But it's like, the beauty of, like, stories and life is that it ends.
Yeah.
It's, like, finite, you know? You can't just do this forever. Otherwise, you're, like, fucking zombies. That's why the fucking CG Luke Skywalker is so disgusting, you know?
Yeah.
Also Tarkin. I keep forgetting about Tarkin.
Yeah.
Which is, like, exceptionally gross. And I like that movie, but Jesus Christ. Just recast people.
Just
at the very least. Or don't even have the character. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, try writing something original.
Yeah.
You know?
Come on, you're adults.
Yeah.
Get a real job. Like writing an Avatar. Not specifically a sequel. I mean, like, your own Avatar, your own Star Wars, whatever.
You know.
Easier said than done, I get that, but my point stands. But speaking of the family character dynamic stuff, I also like that this movie opens up with an attack on a train. I thought that was really fun and immediately sets up the stakes of, like, this family dynamic and how Jake Sully, I would argue, is, like, a great character now. And I didn't expect that. Where he's, like, you see the ramifications of his upbringing as a soldier, and he loves his family, but he doesn't know how to, like, express that besides, like, literally saying family fall in. It's like, I bet that's gonna cause some conflict with his children if he treats them like a squad unit instead of his children.
He's
you
very
know?
engaging this time around than he was in the first movie. Which it seems to be at the expense of Zoe Saldana a little bit.
That is
who I thought,
an issue I have with the
who I
movie.
felt was very sidelined in this movie.
Yeah, until the finale, where she gets a lot of action.
Yeah, she gets like one insane moment in the climax, in my opinion, in a good way.
We'll get to that because I think most of our discussion will revolve around that climax, frankly.
Yeah,
because that's where everything. Would you agree? Like everything kind of falls into place.
Well,
there?
All right. Do you want me to just explain? Like, can I just go into what it was like seeing this movie?
Yeah, because we're hopping around a little bit.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I go to this movie. I said, like, the only thing at this point that has made me skeptical of the, like, 'cause I was genuinely excited about this movie for a while, and then I rewatched Avatar, and I'm like, doesn't you know what? I was right first time around. Not really a great movie. I still feel that way. So that kind of like took some, I was like, all right, I'm a little skeptical of Way of Water. Then some people started letting stuff out there about what the movie might be about,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a very strong, not so sure about that, Chief, reaction to some of this. And some people were giving takes on the movie that now having seen it were just frankly wrong. That's a whole other discussion.
In a positive or negative way, or both?
Both, frankly.
Mm.
But here's the thing, I didn't like their takes. Their takes were incorrect, but then the actual thing wasn't like anything to write home about. But that's a whole. I'll get there.
Okay.
So like I said, I mentioned I saw this in New York City. Went to the biggest IMAX screen on the East Coast to see this. So I'm literally in the best theater possible, theoretically. Who knows? Maybe the operations are run very poorly. I'm theoretically in the best theater to see this. I'm all in on this fucking thing. I am very much not enjoying it for a huge chunk of time. There's a little, like the opening I thought was a little clunky because it's like, okay, narration's back.
I was gonna say I forgot to bring this up, but the moment it happened, I was like, "Oh wow, we're doing this," and I immediately just flashed back to our discussion, like, "Well, there's no way they're gonna do it again."
Yeah, I was like, yeah, the only good thing about the narration in the first movie is that there's no reason to bring it back, and it's like, well, they did. And this time there is no justification for it, but unless that's what they're saving for like movie 7 or something. But
yeah,
and it's not good narration. And it's a lot of like, we see the birth of his son, and then Jake Sully's like, and then my son was born. I'm like, I think I got that, Jake Sully. But and then it's like, but then they came back, and it's like we visually see that, and it's like, yeah, I know what's happening. Like, yeah. But I'm like, okay, it's the start of the movie. It's been a decade. I can totally it's totally justified to do all this, right? I'm like giving it a pass, Train Attack, very fun, very good. I'm like, okay, we're getting right into it. Right on. We're getting right into this thing. There's like a good 10 minutes in here where it's like, boom, humans are back, Train Attack, fucking army guy's back, and now he's a Na'vi. Fucking he's got a son he doesn't know about. There's all this stuff set up, and it's like, okay, these are some, I'm like, this is interesting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, unless they do the obvious stuff with all this setup, unless they just go the obvious route for everything, it's going to be really interesting. And then it was mostly obvious for the next, hour and a half. Nothing unpredictable happened for huge chunks of this movie. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, all right, I guess this is what we're doing. And I'm not enjoying it. And I'm getting a little antsy because I know I'm stuck here for 3 hours watching this thing. And it's starting to, when it starts to feel long in a movie?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, good Lord, just fucking let's go. Let's have something happen here. Have something, And nothing is happening. And I'm watching it. And it's like, oh, so Saldana's like a nagging wife now? I'm not a huge fan of that. I'm like, okay, well, once we get, it's set up. It's a 3-hour movie. Whatever. A lot of setup happening here. Once we get to it. And I'm also sitting there being like, this is all visually very spectacular, right? No one can deny that.
Yeah. Did you see IMAX 3D?
I saw IMAX 3D. I guess I'll make one comment about high frame rate, which was, that's the thing people are talking about. Which is, it felt weird at times, but I don't mean weird as in bad, It's just
Hmm.
so jarring and new. Like I don't have a strong take on it. I don't totally understand the like what it brings to the table, you know. But it wasn't like it's not like this. It wasn't like the Hobbit movies, which like I remember that making me feel physically ill when I watched it. You know.
Yeah, if I could bring up a point about that real quick, and I'll let you get back to your thing.
Mhm.
So high frame rates, like, why the fuck do we even bother? I know a lot of people, like some people I saw it with, were like 24 frames per second. That's cinema to me.
Mhm.
Like that's just the way we watch movies. And this person isn't generally closed-minded about that experience, stuff like that. But the high frame rate definitely threw them off,
Mhm.
and I know it threw off a lot of people. To me, I think Avatar: The Way of Water is the movie that kind of figured it out.
Mhm.
I think you have to meet it on its own terms. Where like I love Gemini Man. There's like scenes where people are talking and it's high frame rate, and I'm like, no, no. But then Will Smith is chasing older Will Smith on a motorcycle, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's the shit right there. And I think Avatar reserving it mostly for like the heavy action scenes
Yeah.
and for the exact moment they go underwater
Mhm.
was when I was like, oh, this feels different.
But you know what?
I've not experienced this exact feeling watching a movie before.
It didn't feel different though. You
Really?
know what it felt like?
If you say a video game, I'm ending the
No, no,
call.
I'm not saying video game. Anyone
Okay.
says that is fucking wrong. That's just dead
Okay.
wrong.
Well, no,
Uh,
I have to say, like, the reason they're saying that is because video games can operate between 60 to 120 frames per
yeah.
second in ways that movies just haven't
And I
quite
get,
gotten
and
yet. That's why.
also like I just want to say like I hate that discussion around video games as well. And I am a little worried that if high frame rate starts becoming more common, that we're gonna start talking about that sort of shit with movies, you know, where people are
Hmm.
like, well, more frames per second, that means better, which is like a lot of video game talk, you know?
Hmm.
Isn't there a lot of stuff out there that says like the human eye can't even really see past 60 frames per second or whatever? Like there's a ceiling on what our eyes can take in.
Hmm.
So, but whatever, that's a whole other shit. But what it really felt like, honestly, and I don't mean this as an insult, but it's just it was that thing of like I've had this feeling before, and it is on a lot of the like 3D rides you do at Universal and Disney.
Ah.
It really felt like that. Now, when you do those, there's like an extra element where it's like your seat moves or you're in a moving car, right? You know,
Hmm.
something like the Transformers ride, which is like a moving vehicle. This You're in a stationary theater, so it's interesting that it could kind of recreate that. And the other insane thing that I will give this movie tons of fucking credit for is that my brain was like confused whenever it was raining in the movie because I felt like I should be getting wet, you know?
Hmm.
Like my brain is like, it's raining. And it's like, well, it's not, no. And I don't think I've ever had that in a movie theater before, you know? And again, when I've had that feeling on a ride, that ride usually has like they usually throw some water on you when that happens, you know?
Hmm.
So it's like it actually happens to me. I don't think I've ever had that where I'm in a movie and it's like it's raining on the street and I feel like it is raining on me even though I know it's not. Did you have that? That was really weird and jarring for me. Not like
I didn't have the "is it raining" feeling, although I'm fucking blown away by them like mastering the skin tones and like the texture of the skin along with like the dripping water on it. Like what the fuck? When they went underwater, because I love like going to the beach and like the ocean and stuff like that. That's when I was like, fuck, this feels like a summer movie. Like I want to hit the beach after this. Then I walk outside and it's like 40 degrees. That caught me off guard. I had to kind of adjust myself after that.
so so yeah, like and I don't think I'm going to say anything bad about the special effects or frame rate or whatever. Other than like occasionally it was a little jarring, but more just in a like this is new kind of way and not in a this is bad kind of way, I guess.
Hmm.
Which is a big difference between those two. And again, and I'll see how it plays when I watch it at home later, whatever the fuck. But so yeah, I'm watching it now. It gets to the part where they have to leave, right?
Hmm.
And they're like, I have to leave. The war will come here. They're gonna come after me. And so they leave. We get to uh, they go to see the movie Moana, and
No,
um,
no.
and we're getting there.
The
And
Met Kaina.
yeah, sure.
I know the names now.
Yeah, I feel like it's offensive to learn these names. I'm sorry, but
I mean, maybe. I
uh,
don't know.
uh, and then it's like, okay, now you're water people. You got to learn our ways. And they start teaching them their ways. And then I'm like, this is the fucking first movie again. What the fuck? Like, I was so angry. And I'm like, and it's so fucking boring. And it's like, look at all the stuff we can do underwater. And I'm like, that's great. Fucking, this is boring to watch. And there's no cleverness to how they're introducing any plot element. There is every character at this point. Every character you meet, you know exactly where they're going. You're like, that guy's gonna be a problem. That girl's gonna fall in love. That kid's an idiot. Like, it's just everything is obvious. The only somewhat interesting thing happening here is that we have Miles on his own journey with his son, and it's kind of like a parallel to Jake Sully's journey in the first movie. You know,
Hmm.
it's like a weird, like, negative, like, this is what happens if you make all the negative choices in Mass Effect type story.
That's exactly what it is.
um,
Um,
uh,
I
and
I just have to say, I think that element really nails home, just like how, like I saw people saying like this movie doesn't get very like reflective about like the criticisms of the original film, and I don't I think it probably could have gone harder, but like I think the very existence of Quaritch as a Navi now, as an avatar, and going through the same journey that Jake does is like is kind of like it's a
it's
perversion of like the natural state in this world, right?
it's him trying to do that at the very least.
Yeah,
Like,
I like it's not a good thing that this is happening.
mhm.
It's like, okay, that first time in that first movie, this is the only time that can work ever in the history of this movie universe. You know, it's like, no, 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 this is actually a bad thing that is occurring.
And I will say some of the like more satirical vibes of the first movie are completely gone here. This one's much more self-serious about itself and its world, which I didn't totally dig. Um, but yeah, I'm not enjoying it. I I'm in the theater actively being like, I'm not allowed to hate this movie. Like, it's too much of a technical triumph that I can't come out of this movie and be like, fuck this movie, right? That's the
Mm.
vibe I'm sitting there with, but I'm kind of like, fuck this movie. And I'm like thinking, like, I want to leave. Like, that's where I'm at by like the midpoint of this movie. I'm like, this is really not enjoyable at all. And I kind of hate it. And I don't really care about what's happening on screen. I'm trying, I'm like debating myself where it's like, how hard am I being on this movie that's like unfair? I swear to God, I was trying to give this movie every benefit of the doubt possible. I swear to God. But then I also, this is maybe unfair, but I don't think it's totally unfair. The movie I thought about while watching this, and while they're like, hey, take this, it'll help you breathe underwater longer. And hey, this is a thing, do this with it. And like they just kind of say what everything is, and everyone's sitting in a circle talking, and it's only slightly more dynamic than the Phantom Menace.
Boo.
um, I thought of Mad Max Fury Road watching this,
Oh.
and in not in a good way,
Oh.
and just in a how Mad Max Fury Road tells its story, and you start the movie not knowing what the fuck is going on, and by the end of the movie you're like, witness, like you fucking get everything by the end of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's no scene where people just sit around in a circle and tell you what the fuck's happening. It's you just learn it by watching it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's like none of that here. There's none of that in The Way of Water for huge chunks of it. And I'm honestly at this point I'm like, Because at this point, I'm seeing it a week later than everyone. It's already getting like fucking raves from most of you chuckleheads. And I'm like, should I just stop watching movies? Like, clearly, like, something's wrong here. And, you know, if some point I have to just give in to the majority and just be like, okay, they're right, I'm wrong. But if that's the case, maybe I should just stop with movies. Maybe they just aren't for me anymore. This is the debate I'm having with myself watching this movie. If Bob Dylan once said the highest purpose of art is to inspire, and if that's true, The Way of Water is art at its lowest form, because it's the opposite of
Boo!
inspire. And I'm just like watching this movie, fucking dreading it. I'm honestly sitting there thinking, like, when I get out of this theater, I'm going to text you and tell you to do this episode with someone else.
Oh my
And
god.
not in a, like, fuck you way, just in a, like, you want to have someone on here that, like, likes this movie. You don't want, because I'm, like, really rejecting it. And I'm
Mhm.
so antsy too. My sister has to tell me to stop rocking back and forth in my seat, like, because I'm sitting there being like, this fucking movie, and I'm just not digging it at all. Um, and then the whales show up in what feels like hour 7 of this movie, and once that first whale with the fucking fucked up flipper shows up, and then the movie's just like, oh, they could talk to the whales. Like, it's just the thing that can happen. We didn't have a long, boring discussion about it. Unless they did, and my brain was just mush and I missed it. But, like, later they go, like, well, people have, like, deep bonds with these creatures. But I didn't know that, like, oh, no, the whales have a language. I did not expect that. And I will say, some people in my theater were not having it. Every time they subtitled the whale, they laughed.
Some people I've heard were not taking kind to that,
Um,
and
and
we'll
then
get to it.
suddenly I'm like, okay, I did not see the movie going here. And it's the first time in the movie I felt that way. And then I'm like, okay, I'm a little here for it. It's not great, but it's better. And then this is after the dumbest scene in the movie where the guys obviously trick one of Jake Sully's sons. And it's
Hmm.
like I saw this beat coming the moment they got there, right? Before they even said anything, I knew this moment was going to happen. And it was so, like, boring to watch it play out. And then he gets back, and, like, everyone's yelling, they're being like, what did they tell you to do? And then Jake Sully's kid's like, no, like, they try to talk me out of it. Like, he takes the fall for those guys, right? I'm
Hmm.
like, I did not expect that either. And then suddenly it's like, okay, now we're friends. And I'm like, oh, all right, okay. And it's like, that wheel's an outcast. You can't talk to him. And I'm like, that's what we're doing here? And so finally, and then I'm like, almost like it was like fucking, I don't know, like suddenly like a splash of cold water in the face, where I'm like, okay, I'm into this. Like, I don't know what the fuck it is really, but I'm enjoying this part of it. And the movie, like, very slowly ticked up in quality from that point on. And then once you get to, like, the last action scene, I can just say I thoroughly enjoyed that. And that's when I was able to come out of this movie being like, it was okay. Which is ultimately my take. But it was weird to go from, like, kind of fucking hating everything about this movie to by the end being like, it's fine. I don't think I've had a turnaround that strong in a while.
Yeah,
Or
I
in
don't think
that
I have
direction,
either.
honestly. I think most of the time I've been, like, at movies where I'm like, fuck yeah, this first half rules, and then they just totally fuck it up by the end. Like, that seems that more often than a movie having a terrible first half, and then suddenly it gets good at the end. I don't know if it gets good enough to make me go back and be like, okay, all of that's good now, because I think all the problems I still have are still there. But I came out of it going like, it was all right.
Yeah,
Uh,
because that last action scene is like an hour long.
Yeah, that's part of it. That helps.
Yeah, it's that last hour.
And it's
It's
the
just
only
like
part
escalating action.
doesn't really feel its length. I will say that as well. Whereas other sequences feel really long.
Yeah, so I gave this just the full fucking 5 out the gate. I will say the one beat where I agree with you is when the kids are clearly tricking Loak into like the beyond the reef area.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, let's even with the shark and stuff like that, I'm like, all right, I'm into it, but I was like, let's get to what the next part of this is because I didn't know what was gonna happen there. And then the whale showed up, and I was ecstatic because I was like, oh, because I was like watching the trailers for this and shit, and I was like, oh, there's a big whale, and I had forgotten. I was like, oh, the whale's here.
And that was the stuff people kind of like leaked out. This is a movie about whales, like that. Like that was what I was hearing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what I didn't realize people meant by that was that the whales were going to be characters in the movie.
Yeah.
So, which was kind of like so fucking weird. I was kind of into it, but yeah. So when the whales showed up, I was like, okay, finally a whale. And then I was like, oh, he's talking. And yeah, it was. I think that whole what's the village called? What are the sea people called?
They're called the Metcaina.
Yeah, that. That whole chunk just clanged super hard for me. It was just like really obvious stuff of like, they're different than us. They won't learn our ways, and it's like, nah, they will. And it like that whole chunk was just really boring. And then once they introduce what are the creatures they ride underwater, are they called something?
The whales or like
Not the
the other
whales,
fish?
the other things.
Oh, like the flying fish ones?
Yeah.
The skim wings.
The skim wings, okay. And once they introduced that, I was like, fuck you. Because it was like, it's just the sky ones in the water now. And I was like, is this are we really doing this? I was so annoyed. And like that chunk is just super long. And I didn't find, like, I thought it looked really good. I just didn't find it like engaging in any way, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's like it felt like watching like a stranger's scuba dive video on YouTube, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like I'm not like yeah, but this isn't that interesting, you know? And but then once the whale showed up, it kind of got all right.
See, I think I'd be more on board with that if we were still just following Jake Sully's perspective. But him and Zoe Saldana take like such a back seat in the middle act of this movie, and unfortunately, Zoe Saldana also takes a back seat to the first act of this movie.
Yeah, she takes a back seat to most of this movie until she tries to kill a child. But
yeah, yeah, like if the third one also kind of puts her in a similar role, I'll be like, all right, Big Jim, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, because I was just hyping up, like, she's my favorite character in the first movie. Yeah. She steals the movie from
arguably the only character in the first movie.
Yeah. But she does, like, when she gets to play with that emotional material in this movie, like, she's fucking killing it again. I'm like, yeah, there we go. Mm-hmm. Where was that the rest of the time?
Yeah.
But yeah, like, if it was still focused on Jake Sully learning the ways, like, he still fucking, he still gets more to do with the two parents for sure. Mm-hmm. And we do see him struggle with writing like the new flying animals, whatever.
Yeah.
But I was really shocked at how much of it was centered around the kids and how much I liked those dynamics. Because I'll say this, I have no fucking idea where these characters go after this movie.
Sure. Like, here's a big problem I had though.
Oh, you hated them?
No, I didn't hate them.
You fucking hate children.
No, I do hate children, but I didn't hate these guys.
Okay.
I don't know how to say this, but I never could tell the sons apart. I don't know if that's a bad thing to say. Did I lose you? Are you there?
No, I'm trying to think of how to phrase it too.
Yeah, like they're not real, so I guess I can say it. But yeah, the whole movie I was like, which one's which? They looked a little too similar.
I don't know. I thought they looked different.
Like they clearly had defined characters, but like at a certain point, I was like, I had to be like, okay, which one's this? Like that happened until the end of the movie.
Oh.
Like, and so I was kind of glad the one died. So I'm like, okay, well now I won't make that mistake.
Oh. Yeah, I didn't realize they would kill a kid.
Yeah,
That caught me really off guard.
another
And
positive of the movie.
and I mean, yeah, because I think it's a great beat, and I did not expect to get emotional at the end, like just consistently after that
Yeah,
happened.
that didn't happen for me. But
Okay.
I did. I was kind of like, yeah, it's sad his kid died, but I wasn't like that upset. Um,
Hmm.
but mainly because there was another moment. I might want to save it, but there's a moment in between when I kind of started getting into the movie and the action at the end that what kind of was I also felt was like I was really like fuck this, like I hate this. And then when I realized it was that setup was just so everything could get violent at the end, then I was like, oh okay, I guess I'm fine with it. It kind of made me feel a little different about the emotional strengths of this movie, but we'll get there.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I didn't. Yeah, the kids were all right. Um, it was just I again they like it because they are such of the focus and they are. I don't know. It was just like they. It still felt like we were hitting the beats of the first movie, even though Jake Sully wasn't. His kids were, and that's like it. Just it. I felt it really clanged. I don't think this movie needed to be 3 hours. I'm just gonna say that.
Okay.
Uh,
Well, I do.
I didn't.
So
I
if you're
didn't get
wrong.
any epic feeling from it. Um, in fact, I would argue you could probably edit Avatar 1 into Avatar: The Way of Water, make one movie, and make it under 3 hours. Um,
Mm, no,
I
but
think you totally could, and it would be better. But yeah, it was. It it all clearly worked enough that by the end it was like, okay, this is fine. But still, I don't think I'm ever gonna watch this movie again. Or at least not most of it. um, but
here's my recommendation to you. Put it on in the background for the first hour and a half, and then like just while you're doing other stuff, and then when the whales show up, then you can kind of like tune back
well,
in.
part of me is just like maybe I should just like sneak into this movie for like the last hour and watch it,
Hmm.
and just be like, okay, there's the good hour. Now let's just find the moments before that like are totally necessary, which I'm assuming amount to about 5 minutes of film. I'm
No,
fucking with you, but and then I'll be like, okay, and now we got a 90-minute movie.
no,
But
no. I really have to commend the character stuff because that all the character stuff really worked for me
mm,
this time.
yeah.
Whereas the first one, I'm like, yeah, it's sturdy enough. Like I'm not in it for that really.
I'll give it this. Jake Sully is actually interesting in this one, where like he's not at all in the first movie.
Yeah,
Um, like I actually, and Sam Worthington gave a good performance.
it's his best performance by like miles,
Well,
and
there's not a
that
lot to compare it to. No
well, there's
offense.
sabotage and Avatar.
Yeah. So, like, no offense, Sam Worthington. It's just this
Yeah,
one.
no, he's really good in this one. I was taken aback by that too. And he has a like a Mr. Incredible moment early on
Mm,
where Natiri's telling him like you're very hard on them because they're trying to live up to you and they don't need that basically.
mm,
And then he turns away from the kids from looking at them and like his eyes well up and he's like I thought we lost them.
mm.
And it was like where the fuck did that come from? It was so good. I was like, why do I care about Jake Sully's feelings?
Yeah.
This is a new experience. There you go. The high frame rate, new experience. Caring about Jake Sully, new
Yeah. There you
experience.
go. Never would have thought that would happen.
Nope.
I mean, I do get to the end of the movie, and I'm like, yeah, Jake Sully. I feel bad for you, man. That shit was fucked up.
Yeah.
So,
There was some other friends I didn't watch it with liked it, but they were like, they didn't really grieve over their kid that much, and I was like, I think they did.
yeah.
They're both warriors, and that's all they know how to like express in the moment. That's all they're allowed to express in the moment. And I also think that fucked up the family unit. Like
Yeah.
I kind of get the feeling that the family might not come back from this.
I think another thing might have fucked up the family unit a little more than that.
Oh, I have a theory. Yeah.
But also, I think that's a dead wrong take. I think there's a lot. I think the movie really does kind of slow down and be like, "Hey, this kid died, and it's bad." Like it's more than I can think of in any recent movies. You know, like blockbuster movies.
Yeah.
And
Well, one of the other points that I brought up about James Cameron's like criticism of like I'm not going to keep referring to that one franchise, but like just general pop blockbuster stuff is that like the characters are really not the forefront.
Mhm.
And it's funny to talk up Avatar's franchise like spectacle and stuff like that because I would argue constantly that it is at the extent of character and the experience of watching a movie, which is just as important as the writing, in my opinion. Which is maybe why the first one doesn't work so well for you. But he also goes to mention that like he wanted to really test Jake and Neytiri like as parents, and like they can't just leap into battle anymore.
yeah,
And when they do, that's wrong. And also, when you run away from your problems, that's still wrong, and that's going to have ramifications too.
yeah,
And like he's not like a mind blowing like screenwriter. He's not trying to be David Lynch, but I think he's got like sturdy enough ideas and screenplays. James Cameron, I'm speaking of,
yeah.
where like he does push these like basic ideas.
I don't
to,
know,
like,
Diego. What
their
films in his
limits.
filmography do you have to point to back up this theory?
Oh, all of them.
Yeah, I mean, that is his strength, you know?
Yeah.
Like, he is good. It's just weird that I think Avatar and The Way of Water are two of the weaker examples. I think this movie's just a little bloated, honestly. And, like, that little bloat goes a long way, if you ask me. And then he takes a lot of similar cheap options in terms of his storytelling that hurt it. But we'll get more into that. Let's go back to the beginning of the movie.
Oh yeah.
Pandora.
It's the same opening shot.
Yeah.
A buddy of mine referenced it as like, "Oh, this is their Star Wars crawl." And I was like, "What do you mean?" It's the forest and the narration. And I was like, "I guess." I hope not, but I guess. Sure.
All right. Herzog is still alive. Get him for one of these movies. Have him do the opening narration. This would be like overwhelming and collective murder. But yeah, it's I think we can skip because like we see kind of like the happy times is like, but happy times don't last forever, and it's like no shit, motherfucker.
Oh, and we're introduced to the one human child left behind
Yeah.
on Pandora.
Spider.
Spider. People have opinions about that character.
I liked Spider.
I like Spider too,
Yeah.
but they're like, "Oh, it's just an excuse to put a white kid in dreads."
Yeah,
That's a little funny.
I don't know if that's where I'd go with that take. As someone who definitely does have hang-ups about these movies. But, Spider actually remains consistently interesting because he's the one where you feel like he's going to end up kind of being with Colonel Miles,
hmm
And then it doesn't really go that way, Like,
Which I was glad
Yeah.
about.
it's constantly threatening to, and I'm glad they didn't. Now, there's a door opened at the end of this movie that kind of hints that maybe that'll become a conflict later, and I'm kind of okay with that. But I'll have to see it in execution. But yeah, we get Spider, which I don't need to know, but like what like so Colonel whatever knocked someone up. I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, Colonel Army.
Yeah.
No, I like Quaritch in this.
Actually, yeah,
But-
he is interesting. He's more interesting here than he was in the first movie.
Yeah.
But so like he knocked someone up, right? Like there's no details I'm missing as to like what really happened there, right?
Yeah, I guess there's like a comic backstory that James Cameron wrote for the character or the actor who played Spider, and then someone convinced him just to like make it a comic, and he was like, "Well, you guys could take care of that. I don't care."
Yeah.
So
Do we never get any comment about his mother?
In the comic, I guess I had this explained to me. I didn't read it. I'm not that big of an Avatar nerd.
But none of this is in the movie.
None of this is in the movie, but I guess she was part of like the attack force in the first film, and she dies in the finale.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all I know.
Okay. Sure, why not? So yeah, we get Spider, we get the rocket ship come down, and we get to see the horrible rocket burn everything, burninating Pandora.
But it's also an interesting reversal of the ending of the first film. You know, it's like Awa heard her calls, whatever, and all the animals and plant life saved the day. And here it's like, yeah, we're gonna open with a complete rejection of that.
Yeah, could have not had the narration over it though.
I actually agree with that.
Yeah.
That was the first thing I talked about when we were talking about like criticisms, like at In-N-Out after, or wherever the fuck I went to go eat after. I don't remember. And I was like, yeah, you know, I kind of feel like the narration might have been like a Disney note maybe this time, because I kind of got what was happening.
I could say that, but it does feel like I said, this movie does feel like it was kind of made in a bubble. Like it doesn't really feel like any notes were given.
Yeah.
Which are, I would honestly say, are mostly positive, even though I have huge hang-ups about the movie. Because I don't think there's anything a studio could say to make this better.
Yeah. Apparently, James Cameron got 4 pages of notes. I don't think he took any of them. But he got 4 pages of notes for this one, 1 page of notes for the third one, and the only note he got for the script on 4 was, holy fuck. Which is very funny.
Well, okay. I don't know what any of that means.
Yeah, I mean, that could be good or bad.
Yeah. But... James Cameron appears in the movie as James Cameron.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, it turns out
he is Awa. Yeah.
But, yeah, we get the train attack at a certain point. That's good. Trying to think of the other major moments. All right, Colonel whatever shows up. Like, he's a Na'vi now. Which, like, I kind of knew that happened, but, like, I didn't know the circumstances, so I kind of liked how that... I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like... And again, it's like a dark reversal of Jake Sully, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it is a, like, oh, he's become the thing he hates. And it's like, that'll be interesting to watch play out. And they didn't do a ton with it, but I can tell it's going places. And then we get Edie Falco, who I love in things, and she kind of felt out of place here. She's kind of just doing military person, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like they got a way too overqualified actress to play that character, because she doesn't end up mattering at all in this movie. Like, again, because of the way, like, he's been filming these multiple movies, I assume she's going to be a bigger part of the sequels.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's where she's going to shine, but I didn't care for her at all. And they've set up like a base, like there's a whole base now, right?
Yeah.
And then she's like, "Hey, planet Earth is dying. We got to get Pandora ready for colonization. Like, that's what we're gonna do to save the human race." And I'm like, okay, that's a really good conflict for this movie to have. And then that never comes up again. But the movie becomes about whales later. What did you think about that?
I fucking hate giving this movie a little leeway. This is the one thing I hate. I have to give it a little leeway to be like, well, they're clearly doing that for the next one. And it's like, if I didn't like this movie as much as I did, I would not give it that pass.
Yeah.
You know? So maybe I'm just full of shit. I don't know. But I was fine with it. Like, okay, this is how you do the sequels. Because, you know, part of, like, my my own reclamation of Avatar is like, okay, I'm excited to see what he does. Because I have no idea what you even do for sequels to that movie. And it's like, okay, I guess that's the conflict for the rest of the movies. You know, not so much for this individual sequel. But it does have to set up, like, the conflict for 3, 4, and 5.
It's such a weird revelation, though, to bring up, that, like, I feel like they should have just saved it for the next movie, because we really don't need to know it. Like,
maybe.
Like,
but
we just need to know, like, hey, we're here, we're setting up a base. Jake Sully's a problem. We got to take him out. Like, that's it. And then, especially since it's going to be about whaling later, like, shouldn't she have brought up something about the whales earlier?
Maybe, but they're
Like,
maybe that's it. Yeah, because then we find out later that they're harvesting like the whale like brainstem juice or
yeah.
whatever
Well, it's
for
also like,
like.
it's like they're not here for unobtainium anymore.
Hmm.
They're here for the whale juice. And she could be like, that's the only thing keeping this operation funded. Like, that's how we're paying for all this. Like, but they never really bring it up.
Hmm.
The whales are like a completely incidental element compared to that. So I don't know. Like that that whole chunk of it, and then it just made me look at the movie a different way, where it's like, okay, so it's a really big element to drop in your movie to be like, planet Earth, it's fucked. Like, there's clear, like, and again, like, I'm going by Edie Falco's word on this. Like,
Hmm.
she could be wrong. Maybe it's one of those things where it's like, Earth would be fine if we stopped burning fossil fuels and if rich people stopped being rich for 5 minutes. And, like, maybe Earth is like, nah, we'd rather just kill the planet. Like, I don't know, but she says, okay, Earth's fucked. We got to get Pandora ready. So then I'm like, okay, so that's at least a better justification than unobtainium, Like, it's like, okay, so maybe all these soldiers are here because the only way you're going to get your family off Earth is by joining the military and helping them colonize a planet, right? And
Hmm.
who knows what propaganda Earth's been getting about the Navi?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
we could be seeing some horribly offensive shit on fucking planet Earth that's just getting us ready to be like, yeah, actually, killing all the Navi is fine and good, actually. We got one Navi on Earth, and he goes on TV and says, actually, Navi deserve to be killed. Like, I don't fucking know.
The Candace Owens of the
Yeah,
Navi.
100% that. Like, and you know what? The good twist there would be like, actually, they're a human that was turned into a Navi. Because they
Oh.
wouldn't know. Like,
Hmm.
or what the fuck does Earth know? And when, like, the first movie set up, there is a like 7 year gap between travel, right? 6
6 years.
years, okay.
Hmm.
So that's, I get that. That explains a lot of things.
I have a note about that for later.
So yeah, and so I don't know. It's one of those, and then I was kind of worried again because I had heard it was about whales. I was a little worried that here were the three things I was worried the movie would be. I guess one of them I'm not worried about, but here's the three things I thought the movie would be. One, I thought it could be like, don't be mean to whales, like Free Willy style, right?
Hmm.
Like,
And some people have compared this to Free Willy.
I'm about to compare it to Free Willy, but
Okay.
just a like comically evil humans and good and pure whales. I was like,
Hmm.
okay, it could be that. The second option, what I was expecting, honestly, just from what I had heard described, was that this was going to kind of be like an eco eugenics type movie that is like, actually human beings deserve to die and whales should live because that's a good thing, right?
Hmm.
And I'm like, that sounds like not a movie I want to see. And some
Yeah.
people were describing the movie as that, and I was like, I don't want to see an anti like life movie, you know? And
Hmm.
people were saying, no, that's what this movie is. And I'm like, I don't want to see that. And then the third, I'm like, well, there is a way to do a story about killing whales that threads that needle like really carefully, and you could actually make an interesting discussion about the balance between progress and the environment, and how like, oh, hurting the environment ultimately is hurting ourselves, and how there's got to be a balance everywhere, and that under capitalism there's always going to be an imbalance because capitalism doesn't know how to function with balances. It's
Hmm.
not this self-regulating thing that idiots convince themselves it is when it comes to an environment. Like,
Hmm.
sure, it's regulating when it comes to selling fucking PlayStations and shit. It's not when it's resources. And I'm like, I guess that if the movie's that, it's going to be really interesting. And then it wasn't that; it was more the Free Willy thing. But uh, yeah, but then like just the that element of like, well, the Earth's fucked. I don't know. It hung over the whole movie for me, right?
Hmm.
Because then it's like I don't know what the human perspective, like unobtainium is just like a resource, like it's oil, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just like, okay, I know what oil is. Like, yes, we should oil. It's not worth killing people just to get oil, you know? Like that's bad. It's don't do it. I get that metaphor very easily. Suddenly it's like the human extinction is at risk. Like there's a debate to happen there, you know?
Hmm.
You're
And
like
it doesn't happen in
you're
this
you're in
movie.
some like Star Trek Prime Directive shit, right?
Yeah.
Whereas like, is it worth damaging the planet Pandora to save the human race, or should the human race accept its extinction? That's like a really interesting existential question to ask. And the movie's not about any of that. And again, it's like it makes me like, what are all these soldiers thinking? Like the guy we see, the gang we see with the captain military dude, um, are all just kind of general assholes. So
No, they're the same people from the first movie. I know there's the character wise, they brought back every douchey looking actor
yeah,
for those
it
roles,
was like they only wanted
which
the
is
douchey
like so
looking
funny.
ones. Yeah, and I'm just like, is anyone here for like is anyone here conflicted? Like I don't know.
I am so glad you brought this up because I think why Quaritch is such a fucking interesting character now is that like that's not him. Those are his memories uploaded into a body.
Yeah,
So it is him, but it is not him. That body has only existed for 6 years, 10 years, maybe, and it wasn't even conscious for any of that
yeah,
until the very moment it was woken up for this movie. So it's like there's all this interesting shit you could talk about in sequels where it's like, can that person actively choose to not be Miles Quaritch?
yeah.
You know? Or are they just like, are they too ingrained with the memories of this person to only like be a soldier and like go out and receive orders and try to kill Jake Sully, you know? Like I think that's so fucking fascinating.
Yeah, it's clearly where they want to take it. And Quaritch is such a guy where like he is such a like order military guy, right? It's military mentality like to the bone, you know?
Hmm.
Like even
I
has a
mean,
line where he's like, "We've been brought back from hell to finish our job," like which I actually really liked. Like
well, people talk about like again the like oh cultural impact or whatever. When his line as they're looking out the window of that spaceship where he's like, "You are not in Kansas anymore." My first theater got applause and like laughter because it was like everyone knows that line. You know, not just from fucking Wizard of Oz, I know,
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah,
like
yes.
when he says the Pandora part, everyone's
Yeah.
like, "Woo!" You know, and you know what? I got a chuckle when he was like, "Why so blue?" I was like, it's so stupid."
Oh, he's got jokes this time.
Yeah.
He's a funny guy. But like no, but he's such a guy where like you can even tell like when he's talking to the kid, he's like, "I'm not really your father. His memories in this body." Like he likes that sort of segmented mentality, you know?
Hmm.
He's the opposite of Sully, where Sully eventually learned like, no, I am connected to this body. Like this body isn't just a resource essentially. It's not just a tool to be used. The mind body, there's a mind body connection, and beyond that, there is a mind planet connection. You know, it's
Hmm.
very literal in these movies, but it's a true thing to life itself, right?
Yeah.
Like humanity is a super organism that's an extension of this planet which generated life at some point, you know? We
Hmm.
can't like lay down and talk to the planet, but we are connected to it, and it's foolish to think we aren't. And it's that to me that's a very conservative mentality of there's hierarchies and separations, you know, which
Hmm.
I don't think are real. So it makes sense that Stephen Lang's character is so much like he is locked into this. Like I'm just memories in a body that aren't like that's how he views things. And I'm hoping that over the course of the next few movies we see that change in him. Or he doesn't even have to become like a good guy or something. Just I want to see that conflict in him more because it could be a good microcosm for all this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it could also be something where because we I don't know if you know this, Diego, but we currently don't know if aliens exist. So, like, if they did, there's no real world analogous version of, like, how does Earth life relate to an alien life, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
there is no, like, are they truly segmented or are they also connected in some way? And that could be some really interesting stuff to explore going forward. Like, maybe there should be some sort of balance. Maybe the Na'vi could be like, okay, like, humans can live here, but you're gonna have to fucking follow the rules, fuckers, or something, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that could, or is it just impossible to keep that balance? Is there something about humanity bringing itself here that is inherently bad, that if we don't sort our shit out on Earth and just move here, we're just going to poison yet another world, you know? That's all really interesting. Not what the movie's about, but it's all very interesting. And it was hard for me to shake for most of it. Again, just because I'm like, it puts the military in a whole different light in the movie. Just because, like, we understand the military is mostly made up of fucking poor high school students, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and
like, hey, there are some fucking monsters in the
no,
military too,
100%.
but you're right. I mean, that's how they manipulate people into like getting involved
Yeah.
and organized in this regime, basically.
I mean, I know some people who are currently in the military who are kind of like, they're kind of coming to terms with the fact that, like, oh, the military straight up took advantage of the fact that I was broke and from a broken family.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, oh, okay. And James Cameron didn't. It's weird to drop that, like, a bomb like this and then just not do anything with it, you know?
Yeah, and like, maybe you have a point about it, maybe not needing to be in this movie. Like, he could have brought that up in the third one, and that's where that conflict
especially
is
when
like addressed.
so much of the movie is just Stephen Lang's team versus Sam Worthington's team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that it isn't.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, I think that's the reason for that.
Mm.
It's a much smaller scale film.
Yeah, but
than the
they
first
should have
one.
just kept it that, right?
Mm-hmm.
They just should have been that, like, whatever, because it's a big thing to throw out there, frankly. And I don't know.
Well, I mean, because the climax, there's like some soldiers and stuff like that for sure.
Mm.
But I think that's kind of why they do the whale hunting thing too, because it's like, well, obviously you want these fuckers to die.
Yeah,
horribly.
the whale hunters
like
are
obviously
evil. Like, they
Yeah.
are,
except for Jermaine Clement,
Yeah.
who is in this as well.
who is somewhat conflicted.
Yeah. Well, he has that great line where he's like, "That's why I drink."
Yeah, which, yeah.
It's like, I guess that's the most insight we'll get now.
Yeah.
That feels like
Wow,
another
you are
character
now
that's
the
like
most dynamic human character in this movie.
No, hey, Norm Spellman, my boy,
I thought you were
is
about to
back.
say Norm Macdonald. But
No, we already talked about
Yeah.
him being in the first one.
Don't these whales, like, have families?
No, it's cool. We only kill one at a time. Oh, okay.
Hey. Seems like a lot of damage just to get a little bit of stuff out of the brains. Like, is there no way to, like, synthesize this stuff? It's like, I don't know. It's cheaper to do this. It's cheaper. All right. Hey. I don't know. I'm not gonna do that for 10 more minutes, but
No, I don't. Aren't the Na'vi connected to these creatures spiritually and organically?
yeah. Feels like there's, like, a connection between them, you know? Like, they seem to be talking. Like, do these whales talk? They seem to be talking. And it's like, yeah, but, like, it stops aging. Oh, it stops aging. All right. Hey, what the hell does that mean? We'll get to that.
Well, that's another big thing that they throw out there, and it's like, I wonder what that's
Yeah.
gonna mean. We're gonna see a character who's like 10 years old, but they're actually like 100 or something like that.
Yeah. Well,
That's what that tells me.
let's just
He's
get to
gonna
that, 'cause
kill
that's
another kid.
also, all right. Here's where I think the movie went a little cheap with its messaging. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. So we get the thing. It's like we get this, like, insanely long sequence of them just killing this whale, which I just hated that sequence because it felt so, like, dumb. Like, it was just like, it was one of those, like, cheap and easy things, you know?
Mm.
Like, well, all right, before that, we get the scene where it's like, oh, all the whales are back, and everyone goes to talk to him, right?
Hmm.
And Kate Winslet's like, "Hey, I'm pregnant. Oh, your baby's looking great." And the whale's like, "Yep, I love my baby. And it's great to see you too. I can't wait to see you again." And then the whale's like, "Also, I'm 2 days from retirement." And then the whale's like, "And I got this big trip planned. I was planning this trip. We're gonna go on the big trip, but just 2 more days until the trip." And then it's like, "Oh man, I love being alive." And I'm writing an opera because I guess whales can do that. They say something about whales writing operas or music.
Okay, well, let's actually talk about that for 1 second, because it's very funny how blunt James Cameron is as a writer, but it's also like true, like all the whale facts he's telling, apart from like the forever juice or whatever,
Yeah.
like that's all like legit real. It's just the alien version of that.
Yeah, but no, but like they're straight up sentient. Like they,
Yeah, I mean, like they can like communicate with other like mammals and stuff like that in this movie, which whales cannot, but they also do have like a language.
yeah, and they're a lot. They. I mean, a lot of animals feel a lot more than we tend to want to admit.
Mhm.
But yeah, I get that. Like that's also, but like they straight up say like they have mathematics,
Yeah.
which I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Well, that's how you compose stuff.
Also, yes. Hey, you know what this also made me think of? Did you ever see the whale that wanted to sing at the Met?
That's not real.
Yes, it's a Disney cartoon
Of
from
course
like
it
the
is.
40s. Let me look it up. The whale that wanted. Yeah, the whale that wanted to sing at the Met from 1946. I believe it's in like one of those like Make Mine Music or something like that. Those like compilation films they did in the 40s when Disney was broke. And it's straight up a whale that like because it's a whale like has like multiple octaves and can like sing, and it dreams of singing at the Met, and so it just starts singing all the time, and like ships are like, "Hey, that whale is singing." And they're like some idiots like, "You know why it's singing? It must have an opera singer trapped in its throat." And so they go out and they fucking kill the whale. Spoilers.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And then he dies, and they're like, "Oh no, there was an opera singer. The whale could sing." But then because it's Disney, it's like, "Oh, but now he gets to sing in heaven." So I guess it's happy.
Oh god.
Yeah. Hard not to think about that watching this movie.
A little bit now, yeah.
But yeah, so the whale's 2 days from retirement, so then we get an extended sequence where they're murdered. And the guy's like, "Chase it down. Let's kill it and its baby." Like some fucking grubby Australian motherfucker. Like it's like, "Oh, I just love murdering these whales."
I've never heard a theater erupt with cheers the way I heard it when
Well, here's the thing.
he got his fucking arm ripped off.
Yeah, I was like, "Fuck all this. This is fucking dumb. This is awful. It's gross. I hate this." Like, what are you doing, James Cameron? And then when it was like, "Oh, they're all gonna die horribly," I'm like, "Oh, that's why he did it."
Yeah.
Like, oh, he wasn't trying to make some complicated point. He just wanted to get us ready for violent murder.
Yeah.
And once that became clear, I was like, "Okay, I'm cool with this."
Yeah.
It was like I was just like, "Oh, okay." Like I was just like, "Oh, he's trying to do the fucking Cove, but it's CGI." Like, fuck you. Like I was really in a fuck you mood watching that sequence. And then when I realized James Cameron's agenda was just violence, I was like, "Okay, I'm fine with that." But
and we should also mention that the Na'vi communicate with a version of sign language.
Yes.
And the person in charge of coming up with that sign language is one of the actors from Baby Driver.
yes, I remember
C.J. Jones.
that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. I remember you said you were going to bring up Baby Driver. For some reason, I thought the movie. I totally forgot that element for the moment, but I did see that, which is that's pretty cool.
That is cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, so the Na'vi say like "I see you" and shit, right?
Mhm.
What if you're blind?
Moving on.
Just like
No.
There's that whole like I get it. Like they don't literally mean "I see you." Like
Yeah.
I know that. But it feels
I
like
think it's still
sight is like an important element of their culture, you know?
it's
Like,
sight, but it's also sensory. So
yes.
I think it still translates.
But
You
like,
know.
does there do like blind people in our culture do hold a certain significance in our like mythology, you know? Like
Hmm.
blind people were considered blessed in a certain way, you know? Which is weird. Like it was just people not understanding that, oh, when you lose one sense, your other senses get better. Like
Yeah.
which is but like I'm not trying to be, but like, you know, that's why there's like blind oracles and shit like that in both history and myths, right?
Yeah.
Is there anything like that with the Navi?
Maybe there is.
Feels like,
We got 3 more sequels to get through
yeah,
at
fuck
least.
you. But so all right, we get the extended sequence where they kill the whale. Oh, and also like, yeah, like guys like murder the whales, and Stephen Lang's like, they're like, oh yeah, we hunt these whales, you know, we got a quota. It's like we hunt like the free roaming whales and stuff. He's like, but what if we killed the whales that have friends? And then Jermaine Clement's like, you can't do that. They have friends. And he's like, we're gonna do that. Everyone's like laughing, and all the guys hunting him are like, they're just that's every character in the third act of this movie except Jermaine Clement. And then they kill it, and they go inside and they extract like a little vial, and they're like, this stops aging. And I'm like, what the hell does that mean? I'm not trying to be plot hole police here, right? Like,
No, 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 no.
this is,
I totally. If I don't agree with it, like as a criticism, I at least agree. Like it's worth talking about. As like, why is that in this one?
and there are there's plenty of real world examples of like humans hunting animals for specifically one resource. Like, I don't know, ivory tusks. Like, you know, like there's plenty of examples of that, and like those are devastating to the environment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, what does it mean when he says it stops aging?
In terms of this individual movie, I'm gonna stop dreaming of the exciting potential of sequels. I think it's just like a disgusting antithesis to the whole Navi thing of like all energy is only borrowed,
Mhm.
and eventually one day we give it back.
Yes,
Right?
sure.
So this is that this is the gross another perversion of that ideology where it's like, no, it's mine.
Yeah,
I live forever.
there's that. But
But I will say like, yeah, another big bomb to just kind of drop in the
you
movie.
drop the movie, and then it's like, okay, stop aging. Is this by you? How much of it stops aging? Right? Like that's
Hmm.
a big question for me. So it's like, well, we only get this little vial from this one whale. How many people is this vial going to stop aging? Right?
Hmm.
If it's like one vial for one person, I'm like, that doesn't seem like a good trade off. If it's like it takes multiple, like, is it something you have to take regularly? You know, like, are these like
Hmm.
regular injections? It's one thing to extend your life. It's another thing where it's like, okay, you got to keep killing these whales to extend your life, right? I
Yeah.
guess what I'm saying. All right, you put me in a room, right?
Hmm.
You put a kid with cancer in front of me, and then you give me a bat, and then you go club this baby seal to death,
God.
and you will cure that kid's cancer. I might club that baby seal to death. In fact, I think I would club that baby seal to
Oh
death.
my God.
If it would cure cancer
No, yeah, I
in
know.
a
It's just like it's
child,
still fucked up.
I'm just being honest. Like this isn't just a, oh, it's a perversion of the culture of the Navi thing. Like this is a bit like it what is it? It's a big deal. And you could have a discussion here of like what's the trade-off, right? You know?
Hmm.
And maybe I'm coming at this from a different perspective where I take a lot of medication and you know, I'm slightly disabled. I take up more resources than the average person just to keep me alive. So I understand that like, and like these things don't drop out of the sky out of nowhere. Like I know that it takes a lot to synthesize medications, and they come from different countries we often exploit for their resources. But like at the end of the day, it is being used for like medical purposes. And I can assume that the stop aging juice is like it's something the like 1% on Earth use, right? Like it's
Yeah.
not a like altruistic thing because like that's just what this world is. But again, it's I don't know, man. You know, it's also something where it's like, all right, so like I made that analogy about clubbing a baby seal to death, and then it's like, okay, I can cure all cancer if I club all baby seals to death, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's just say that's an option. Like, that's at least a discussion, you know? It's like,
Yeah.
okay, yes,
Yeah.
curing cancer, good. Clubbing baby seals to death, bad. Like, these two things are in direct conflict. Is the impact of making baby seals go extinct, the impact it will have on the environment, worth curing all cancer in the world? You know?
And I think that's a compelling discussion to have.
Ugh.
I think that's why they chose the words "it stops aging" and not "it cures cancer."
Well,
You
that's
know,
why it's a
like I'm
no,
being snarky, but I think that's true.
no. But I'm saying like that's the coward's move. These are both cowards' move. Making the whales straight up they can talk, and then just being incredibly vague about what the magic brain juice does. Like there's a debate here, right? But all right, the whales are straight up. They're equivalent to beings. They're equivalent to human beings essentially. That's what this movie is postulating, right? That
Hmm.
they are inequivalent to other Navi. They might as well be like humans. So now, the debate isn't clubbing a baby seal to death to cure cancer. Is it, do I kill another human to cure cancer, right? In one person, right? Is taking
Hmm.
one life worth saving another life? That's a trolley problem debate, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting, and I think people would fall differently on that debate path, right? Like
Hmm.
there's a debate to be had there. There's a conversation. Is it worth killing one human being to cure all cancer? Like that's a debate. And there's an ethical one there. And I feel people could fall differently and it would be complicated and it would be interesting and engaging. And this movie just bisects all of that. Like it's all of this is just a setup so that when we get to that action at the end of the movie, which is very engaging and entertaining, it's just so we don't feel bad about anyone getting killed. It's cheap and it's lazy, and I think it obfuscates a lot of the points James Cameron's trying to make about the environment and our relation to it and how we exploit other nations for their resources for our own personal benefit, not their own. Um, it cheapens a lot of it, and it's this thing of like I'm not trying to say James Cameron's a bad person. I feel like Cameron ultimately I align with him politically on a lot of things based on comments and actions he has made around these movies. But when he tries to explore it in film, I don't think he knows how to do it. And maybe because I think if he really did think about it, he might not make the movie because it's a little too real at a certain point.
Mm.
Um, and I think James Cameron is someone who sees that the world has a lot of problems right now. And again, I think he draws a lot of similar conclusions that you and I might draw. Um, if I read the word anti-imperialist in one more review of Avatar: The Way of Water, I'm gonna fucking blow my brains out because James Cameron, good filmmaker. He sees all these problems. He's a filmmaker. He only knows how to process this stuff through making movies. He's making art trying to process his feelings on these things. And this is a very honest look into how he feels. But I don't think that's not like inherently good just because I agree with it.
Hmm.
You know? Um, it's, I don't know if it's necessary. There's an argument to be made of, well, if he gets, maybe this movie will inspire someone to do the right thing later down the line. I don't think I don't think movies really have that power ultimately. I think we as people do, and when we talk to each other and communicate with each other, we can get there. I think human movies are an extension of that sort of communication. But just a movie that has good politics with good intentions, I don't think necessarily moves the needle that strongly. Especially because I'm willing to bet 75% of the people are not going to pick up any global warming comparisons or climate change analogies to these movies, which is more of a problem with the American education system than anything else.
Yeah.
But it's but if he maybe made it a little more complicated, I think it would provoke people a little more, and it would get your brains working a little more, and you would actually have to think about these things. And instead, he kind of just goes like, environment good, military bad, save the whales. And it's like, yes, I agree with all of this. He's not wrong. This isn't, but I don't know. I don't want to give the movie like a huge pat on the back for it, I guess is what I'm saying, which I see a lot of people doing. It's just it's a movie at the end of the day. Yes, movies influence us. Yes, we should take movies seriously. I'm doing that right now. But I see some people, I've seen this a lot more, where people, they're responding to whether or not they agree with the politics of the movie, and then deciding how they feel about the movie based on that. And I don't know. I left very complicated, and I left that this movie was honestly a very shallow exploration of a lot of really complicated things. And if you want to, on an entertainment level, I think there's an argument to be made that this is an entertaining movie. I have mixed feelings on it, but I think other people are entertained by it. I don't think it's this triumph outside of an entertainment level. It's Moana. I mean, Moana's a Disney movie. It's a very good Disney movie. But it's not something that you're going to watch and you're going to change your whole fucking life over it, you know? Sorry to get, like, dark with it, I guess. I wasn't trying
to. No, that's why we talk about these things.
You want movies to really activate people's brains, you know? You want it to get in their heads a little bit. And there's a certain level that, like, if someone's not willing to let it in, it's just never going to get in, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't think this movie is going to reach even an open-minded person who isn't already aligned with it, you know? That's just how I feel. And again, it's something I think in opposition to something like Mad Max Fury Road, which I think does do a lot of that a lot better while also being a mostly entertainment movie. But also it's a movie about women's autonomy, bodily autonomy, you know?
Yeah.
That's kind of what the movie's about. And I think it threads that needle a lot better. But with very obvious good and bad guys. And it's like they're going up a guy named Morton Joe, like there's no way Morton
still
Joe
has like a dynamic turn from a supporting character that makes the bad guys more interesting when one of them decides to be the good guy.
Yeah.
Well, like, which is a very like watered down explanation of what happens with the character of Nook in that movie.
Yeah. And that's a character who also is like, he grows because he sees more of the world, because he's like literally a part of a death cult, you know? And I'm hoping that's what we'll get with someone like Stephen Lang's character going forward, you know? That maybe he'll start getting a new perspective on things, because that's where the movie kind of ends with him, you know? He kind of accepts that, yes, he does have a connection to this kid, Spider. He's willing to be like, no, I will try to save his life, and then Spider saves his life, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure that door's open. I don't think it's here. Uh, Ultimately, it still feels like Avatar is just kind of building the engine, and it hasn't really taken off yet. And this movie, more than the first one, kind of maybe not interested. Like, I don't know if I'm really gonna like rush out to see a third one. You know, uh, I'm sure it'll be fine. Again, there's so much potential energy still, but I've been here before with franchises and long running stories where you're like, well, there's a lot of potential here, but like it's once it gets there, it'll really work, and then it kind of never gets there. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
getting to my limit on how much I'm willing to kind of put up with it. Now clearly, a lot of people feel very differently. Good for them. Stick with it. I might just chalk it up to Avatar. Well-made movies, just not for me. I think that's more of what's just happening here. But yeah, uh, just I ended up feeling The Way of Water was a little shallow. That's all.
Oh, fucking! You're doing one of
Yeah, I'm
those.
sorry. I kind of
No,
have
no, it's
to.
fine.
I kind of have to.
Yeah.
Also, I'm a
No,
fucking
that's a
idiot
fucking
that loves the
headline. Yeah.
ocean, and I love whales. I love all this shit, and it didn't really click with me that much. But uh, hey, uh, like Moby Dick's my favorite fucking book.
Yeah. So you should have loved
I
this
really
one.
should have, because this is
Yeah.
like, what if Moby Dick could talk back to you? And
Well, before we get into some more stuff, because I want to ask you about like some of the other actors in the film.
mhm,
The whales in this are called the Tulkun.
mhm.
So the rumored titles for the next films are Avatar: The Seed Bearer. The fourth one is Avatar: The Tulkun Rider, and the fifth one is supposed to be The Quest for Awa. So it looks like you're getting more whale action, is what I'm saying.
Okay. I mean, honestly, the Seed Bearer is the only one I'm kind of like not so sure about that, Chief.
It is quite the title.
Well, mainly
Yes.
because I'm just worried that it's like, okay, we learned about the Sky People in the first film and the Water People in the second film. Now we're going to learn about the Dirt People in the third movie. And then I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ, again? Like,
Well, maybe that's just like the framework of these movies, and it sounds like a framework that you're not
I am
into.
very much not into it. I think it's a
Yeah.
bad framework, but
Um. So James Cameron also said that the humans are just the straight up antagonists, the bad guys in the first two movies. The next one, we're gonna start getting into some of the Navi groups that are less positive, that are they will be more focused as antagonists, and I'm curious about his ability to pull that
yeah,
off.
that. For a second there, I thought it was going to be like the humans are the antagonists in the first two movies. The third one, we're going to introduce some sort of moral gray area with the humans, and I'm like, okay, I'm here for that. And then instead, you're like, actually, we're going to meet evil Navi, and I'm like, no, let's not do that. Let's not. I don't want to see what James Cameron's idea of evil Navi are.
Oh, but he didn't say outright evil, just
It's fucking James
antagonistic.
Cameron. You're gonna be evil.
Well, I'm assuming the next one's not Earth. I'm assuming the next one is fire. Like we haven't seen volcanoes on Pandora. I'm sure they got some fucking network of volcanoes or something.
But you said that one of them's called the Seed Bearer.
The next one,
That's
yeah.
Earth.
I don't
Where do you
I don't
plant
know.
a fucking seed?
Yeah, but
Unless you
this
want to
is
talk
like
about like
alien
volcanoes
seed.
like fertilizing shit.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
All right.
Yeah.
Man, if only there was a I don't know if you thought of this, Jacob, but like you could make a show out of like the four different elements, like do a different element each season, and it could be like really engaging. And you know what you should do? Just skip air, because air's not that engaging, but like have air kind of be like this overarching one for it. So then you don't have to do 3 seasons.
That would be a pretty good idea, yeah.
Be a pretty good show.
You could even call it Avatar as
Yeah,
well.
you could call it Avatar, and you could air it on Nickelodeon about a decade ago, and you could also be like, we're for children, so it's gonna be, but actually we're gonna have much more morally complicated characters.
Speaking of which, Cliff Curtis was actually in The Last Airbender. Do you remember this?
Oh yeah. Oh fuck. Yeah, that
Yeah.
one really annoyed me.
The movie or the character in this movie?
I mean, you know what? Like, it's it's not the best. It's still it carries over a lot of the problems from the first movie, but it felt a little more subdued this time. I guess I'll say.
Hmm.
It's still there, but in the last Airbender movie, when Cliff Curtis was in it, and who played his son?
Dev Patel.
Dev Patel. So it's like Dev Patel is the son, and fucking then it's Cliff Curtis is his dad, and he's fucking Maori. Like, what the fuck? That was really fucked up. That one's fucked up.
Yeah.
Um,
I was gonna say I think he's actually really good in this though.
he's fine.
Like
I kind of like him as like this. He's like, I'm just trying to do the right thing, but
well, him and Jake are bros.
yeah, they're like bros. But he's also like, God damn, man, this being in charge is hard. Like,
Hmm.
he's got that
Well,
vibe.
you also get the sense that his wife, Kate Winslet, is in charge.
Yeah, like she's running the show, but he's also like, hey, look, I kind of have to look like I'm in charge.
Hmm.
Which brings up a lot of interesting questions about the gender politics of the planet Pandora that are never explored. But anyway, Kate Winslet seems like she's having a grand old time playing the
Yeah.
character that she would never legally be allowed to play under any other circumstances.
A little bit. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so
She's also pregnant and fights pregnant, and people seem to like that a lot.
yeah, they're doing the pregnant thing was actually played up a lot in this movie, which was nice to see.
Hmm.
Yeah, seems to be a thing because guys don't know how women's bodies work, so they think that women when they're pregnant all they can do is wear sweatpants and sit around the house all day.
Yeah.
But like there is like a historic precedent for like pregnant women in battle. Like,
Hmm.
but hey, what are you gonna do? Also, if
Yeah.
you have not seen Black Panther 2 yet, right?
I have not.
Black Panther 2 with its whole fucking Namor thing, it is kind of like we have the way of water at home. Like, it really is. There's a lot of weird parallels, and it's weird that Disney is putting out both movies. And it almost feels like, just because of what I know about how the MCU is structured, that fucking Kevin Feige was like, I have to do Namor now before Way of Water comes out. Like, it felt like he was trying to get this thing out as quick as possible.
Hmm.
In a kind of like, I have to look like I got there first kind of way. Yeah, a little depressing.
Yeah.
Um,
Shout out to Ryan Coogler.
yeah. And I'll say the Namor stuff in that movie is the stuff that works for the most part.
That's good to hear.
It's the stuff around it that's a little more complicated.
I will watch it eventually.
Yeah.
Did you hear that Ryan Coogler shared his initial like plot recently for the initial plan for Black Panther?
It was kind of just going to be Black Panther versus Namor, right? Like,
yeah, and like I mean, fucking God, it sucks that Chadwick Boseman's gone for a million reasons. Like, but just like speaking like as like a fucking loser nerd, like God, that matchup, you can just see it, right?
yeah.
Like it's such a fucking slam dunk
And
concept.
and I think he was honest where he's like, he did not know Chadwick was sick. I think he had no idea. And yeah, it's a shame. I mean, but hey.
Yeah, for more than just comic book nerd stuff,
Yeah.
like it's that dude was like an instant icon.
Actually, a lot of weird parallels between Black Panther 2 and Way of Water, but also not really worth getting into, so we won't.
Also, James Cameron also had an initial draft of Avatar 2 that he threw out, and he was like, "No, didn't work."
Was it the first half of this movie?
No, I guess when he assembled that writer's room or whatever, right? That's why he did it, because he was like, I can't find like the spiritual elemental angle that made the first one an international super hit. And so he's like, I had like some of the emotion, I had some of the characters, like the story, but I needed that third thing. And
How is China responding to this?
I actually don't know. Let's see. Because
I've
the
heard
day of
mixed
recording, it's about to
things.
break $1 billion.
Yeah, I've heard mixed things, but China's also like in a weird spot right now.
So initial projections in China were disappointing,
Mhm.
but now I see two big headlines. The two biggest ones that popped up were from comicbook.com, which is stupid, and something called koimoi.com.
Mm.
Comic Book Report says Way of Water sinks at the Chinese box office. It failed to meet initial expectations, but it is one of the few American blockbusters that has gotten a release there,
Mhm.
unlike literally all the other ones.
Yeah.
But then the koimoi.com said that it's a huge hit and it crossed $100 million at the Chinese box office as of the day before recording, December 26th.
Mm-hmm.
So, who knows? Because, I mean, everyone forgets the first Avatar didn't have, like, a huge, like, opening weekend.
Well, that was
like, it was
that
big,
was what
but...
was that was what was interesting about the first release, where it kind of like just kept doing the same numbers for a few weeks.
Yeah.
Which was fascinating, and that just doesn't really happen anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's why a lot of like directors and artists are like, "Hey, don't worry about that first weekend. Like, let's allow some staggered releases. Let's like let the movie exist on its own terms, and let's talk about the movie before you worry about the money." And I know this is a rare occasion where we kind of are all watching with bated breath because we're like, "Are we gonna get that 4 and 5 sequels?"
Yeah, that's. I mean, that's the thing. It's just I'm only interested in the money. I don't really care what Disney makes. But
yeah, who gives a fuck?
Yeah, I just want them to make enough that like, because maybe we could see it all play out. And at the end of the day, this is still something I'd rather see made than like Avengers 7. You know,
Mm-hmm.
right? Even though I'm not like overly in love with it. It's worth more ultimately.
Yeah, I mean, but I also hear who's the director of Ad Astra?
James Gray.
James Gray. Yeah, I hear James Gray out of the corner of my ear being like, "Don't be a capitalist lemming and pay attention to the box office." Did you hear about that?
I get it, but it's also why I'm not here to do like it's gonna do 3 billion motherfuckers. Like I'm not here.
Hey! You asked for a guess. I gave a guess.
Well, yeah, but you weren't like that either. That was just your guess. Like,
yeah,
I'm not. I'm just saying, like, I'm not out in the street being like, ha ha. Like, I'm not trying.
Yeah,
I'm just like, what is the number it has to hit to keep it going? Is all I really care about.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's got to be like 2 billion.
Yeah, and I think
we'll
it'll hit 2 billion. Just based on like like compared to other movies, how quickly it went up, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it is also another one of those movies that is just like see it on the biggest screen possible, you know,
in the most expensive format possible. Which I also would encourage, frankly, just because this is the one movie where I would encourage 3D.
Yeah.
It's also like a big part of that discussion, like people going out to see it, like, oh, it did have a cultural impact, just people had lives to live and weren't arguing on Twitter about bullshit.
Yeah.
I probably brought this up, but I think it's also worth noting why I said that initial 3 billion number when you asked about it on Twitter. My friend's dad doesn't speak any English, but he loves the first Avatar. And when he heard that the new one was coming out, he was like, "Hey, can we go see that? Like, I want to go like opening night with everyone." And my friend was like, "We won't be in subtitles, the theater we're going to. Do you want me to get you a ticket anyway?" She's like, yeah, I just want to see it. And I was like, oh, that's why this movie's going to make all the money. It's because it's literally crossed, like, cultures and language barriers. And he did enjoy it. He was in front of me at the theater on opening night.
That's good.
So thumbs up.
I'm just looking at, like, what is on the horizon, you know? For like what is Avatar having its way? Again, I'm not trying to play the box office game too much. Just like
no, this is the one time we're ever going to talk about that out of sheer interest and not like apathy.
It's like it just fucking like stomped on Babylon's throat, right? Like
yeah, and to be fair, that movie was not marketed like well at all.
I disagree. That felt like that marketing was everywhere. For a movie like that, which is like a 3-hour Hollywood movie, like It felt more omnipresent than I would have expected.
Oh, I didn't get any of that,
And
but
um,
different bubbles, I guess.
maybe. I mean, I saw a lot of posters for it. People who don't care about movies asked me about it. Um, so like that just doesn't happen. As you can
Hmm.
imagine. That's weird. All right, so Women Talking, I guess, came out this past weekend as well.
Oh, I gotta watch
I mean,
that.
that could be like a limited release thing, but it's being released by Plan B Entertainment, which is Brad Pitt's company, on the
Hmm.
same weekend as a Brad Pitt movie. So
Hmm.
maybe he saw the writing on the wall. But um,
Oh.
there was the the Whitney Houston movie, which I didn't hear much about.
Hmm.
Um, there was so yeah, there's not a ton. There's a Christian Bale movie out I've never even heard of. Next week it's A Man Called Otto. The Tom Hanks plays an asshole movie.
Do you know what that movie's actually about?
No,
It's about a dude who keeps trying to kill himself.
awesome.
Yeah.
Got good note to end the year on.
I know, I know.
And then something called Alice Darling, which I've never heard of.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, I don't know that
some
one.
sort of thriller. And then
I think the first legit competition it's gonna have is
yeah, that's what I
Megan.
was gonna say. The next weekend it's Megan, which could, but I also don't know. Like Megan is getting the like first week of January drop, which is
Hmm.
like
No, it could be dog shit.
yeah, it's one of those where it's like it's either gonna be like a wild swing genre film or like trash.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and so that's and then after that you got House Party, um, which who knows?
Wait, wait.
Hmm.
Did they remake House
They
Party?
remade House Party.
What is this
I mean,
world?
well, and it's I think it's one of the like LeBron James produced movies. Like when he signed a deal with Warner
uh
Brothers. I think this is the last one, so it's just getting dumped in January. And it's
oh.
like, oh, these guys are watching a house. It turns out it's LeBron James' house. Let's have a house party. That's what it looks like it's about, anyway.
Oh, okay.
um, so
Kind of lost the charm from the original concept with that, but that's fine.
there's a movie with Gerard Butler called Plane,
Oh yeah.
which looks
That
like
trailer always gets a laugh.
it looks jingoistic in a not fun way. But who knows?
Yeah, everyone just go watch Den of Thieves instead.
I mean, honestly, I'm look. The more I look at it, it's like January is mostly wide open. Like it could totally keep making money through January.
Mm.
Like
I think it could too.
like
I
Megan
think it's
Megan might be able to get it for like one weekend, but then I could totally see Avatar pulling ahead again. Like
mhm.
people just keep going to see it.
Also that word of mouth is like really great,
Very
like
positive.
outside
Yeah.
the internet. Yeah. Even on the internet, it's mostly positive.
Yeah, I haven't really heard that much negative. I seem to be the guy who's like most down on it. Just
Yeah. You
my
might like
family also wasn't super into it. Yeah,
really.
they said it was all right, but they
I was gonna ask about Papa Gringo
yeah,
because he loved that first
he,
one.
he doesn't he doesn't like animals getting abused. So like
Okay.
he kind of was like he didn't like that. He's like I'm glad they got revenge at the end,
Hmm.
but he didn't. He's like I don't want to watch that. So like that was maybe enough to break him. um, but yeah, but I will say I could feel it. The crowd I was with was definitely into it.
Mm.
Like they were responding in ways where, like like how a crowd responds when they're like clearly into a movie.
Oh
There
yeah.
was a lot of that. So and we are at the most expensive theater in New York City, so that you might kind of like force yourself to enjoy it, so you don't admit you wasted money. But it felt like everyone was enjoying it. So
Hmm.
again, I don't know
Well,
how this
fucking
plays on like a fucking like one theater screen in the middle of fucking nowhere. You
hmm.
know, I'm assuming I don't know what the argument is there for those type of screenings, but hey,
Yeah.
uh,
Well, my fucking theater, and apparently many others, because people are tweeting about it, like went ballistic, not just with the whale guy getting his arm ripped off, but like when Quaritch is like, I'll fucking never stop hunting your family until you're all dead. And then Jake's like, all right, let's get it done. And everyone's like, yeah! Like, it just went
I didn't
crazy.
get any of that, but I just got people being like into it. Like, like a respect.
Then again, this is I went to the Chinese theater, so of course, if an audience is going to respond well, they're going to respond well there.
You know what we haven't talked about at all?
I got a couple more bullets in the chamber.
All right, go.
Is it about Sigourney Weaver?
Yeah, let's talk about Sigourney Weaver.
I think she's great in this.
Yeah,
I think she's fantastic.
she's very fine.
Aww.
It's still weird. I'm still a little like on the fence about like an adult playing teenage girl thing.
Well, here's the thing. I'm not saying anything is wrong, or it's bad, or I'm judging James Cameron or the team differently. It is very funny that Sigourney Weaver has chemistry with an actual human teenager.
Yeah.
Like, that is just a little out there.
It is a little weird. Although it is funny that, like, I read, like, Sigourney Weaver was giving interviews where she's like, I spent time around teenagers to really get their mannerisms down. Mm-hmm. And then she gives a very good performance, but, like, the most teenager things she does in this movie is, like, roll her eyes when they ask to take a picture.
Yeah.
She does a lot of eye rolling. And it's like, well, glad you did the research, I guess. She's also she's like a miracle birth, right? Like,
yes, she's Navi Jesus.
Yeah, I mean they're still, they haven't totally gone in on that. They're still like, there could be a father, like there's some of that, but she's also talking to the planet. So I assume, like, if we find out who the father is, it's the planet. But yeah.
Well, again, this is another like weird like biological thing. You know, it's kind of like the inverse of Quaritch, where it's like she isn't the memory of Grace from the first movie. She is completely her own being, right? But she was born in that avatar body that never was truly alive and never was truly dead, as we find out now. And it's like, okay, so this is another note I had. In the first movie, it's Eywa, their god, is real. Their god exists, right?
Yeah.
It is a birth of science and nature melding together.
Yeah.
Eywa exists. In this movie, it's like, well, maybe your daughter's just fucking weird, Jake. Like, we end the note, like, the last, like, confrontation about Kiri's like identity.
Oh, right? All right.
She has the seizure.
Yeah, that scene bugged me.
Okay.
That scene kind of bugged me.
We can talk about that, but I just want to say, like, they're saying, like, no, she's not connected. It was like an epileptic event.
Yeah.
Right? She is not connected to the world like she believes she is. And then the last physical note on that is when she saves kind of the other kids under the water. Right? And it's like, oh, okay, there's that question can still linger. Even though she was told, like, no, that's not what's happening with you. But go ahead on your negative note about that.
Well, that was just, like, kind of like a tradition versus science thing I didn't care for. It's very, very close to holistic medicine for a moment there. Just rubbed me the wrong way. That's more of, like, personal thing. It's not, like, I don't know if I can really complain about it. But it is weird where it's like, yes, their god's real, but also, like, we're not going to say that means anything.
Well, it's like maybe their god isn't real.
Well, that's the thing. It's there. You could always go like, well, they call it a god, but it could just be the planet. Like, and it's like, yeah, like if a planet was alive, it would probably appear to us as a god, you know?
Yeah.
Like, why isn't our planet God? You know? Like, I mean, some people believe that. Some people believe a lot of other stupider things, but but yeah, you know, I don't know.
I don't know, the really broad sci-fi
like,
concepts.
It feels James Cameron's is like not thinking the sci-fi stuff out at all. Like,
I don't know. I kind of agree with you more on the first one, although I'm much more positive, and I still think there's a lot of like interesting merit to that movie. I was super in all the weird like sci-fi borderline fantasy elements of this one, where like my brain's like percolating all these different thoughts, like what do the other like Navi tribes look
But,
like? What
but here's the thing: it's all potential energy.
I was into it with this one too.
I'm talking
Like,
about this one.
oh no, I know you are. I'm saying I still liked it here.
Mhm.
In this one, it's more than just potential energy. Like I really like the way we see like not just the whales like being cute and stuff like that, and of course they're gonna die horribly and they're gonna feel bad and you're gonna cheer when the bad guys die horribly. I liked just watching like Kiri explore the underwater world. Like I
All
know
right.
you and plenty of other people seem to not be super into that middle act. I was like, this could be the whole movie.
All right.
I don't
Here's
want to fight
something
anyone.
I just got. Now this is where I'm just not a smart person, so I'm probably gonna say some dumb things right now. Um,
Mm,
I was reading that like the actors had to like train to hold their breath for like 6 minutes to do some of this stuff.
hmm.
Have you read that?
Of course,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, I get that like this motion capture technology is like really good and it's really important and it's essentially seamless for the entire movie. It's great stuff. Um, at what point though do you just go like, well, let's just do the whole shot in on a computer? You know what I'm saying?
I
At
do.
what point is it
I
just Finding Nemo? Like,
Well, there's been some discussions about it. It leans more towards outright negative criticism, like why can't Avatar just be considered an animated movie? And I don't see that as a negative at all. Although some people might position it as that. Like I think
it
it's
could be a negative
basically
if
an
it's a way
animated
to work
movie.
around unions laws, which is a lot of what motion capture technology was designed to do.
Oh, maybe there's that.
I don't know if James. I don't know if I think because it is such a special effects heavy and actor heavy film. I think there's no like cost saving thing, but like that was
Hmm.
a lot of the Zemeckis push was that like you could basically screw over animators and special effects people at the same time. But I don't know if that's what's happening here. I have no evidence to suggest that. I just know that's why studios went in on it initially,
Mm.
and yeah, I don't know. Like, I just don't know what is the what is the trade off to just going like, screw it, let's just do it all on the computer.
I don't have an answer for you, frankly.
Yeah,
Like I maybe it's just easier
like
to match the digital effects with the motion than it is to come up with original motion concepts in a
if
computer.
that's the
You know what I
case,
mean?
I can at least kind of see that. But then again, when you go to like they're swimming underwater, like I don't know if you actually need to swim underwater for that.
Hmm.
Like, I feel like that's something we can just kind of guesstimate, maybe. Like,
I think
or
it's
you
also
only
a
need a
way.
couple shots of them in the water at most. Like, why do they need to hold their breath?
Yeah, I think it also just comes down to Cameron wanting more physical control
Mm.
over the images. You know,
Yeah,
because like so you get the 3D effect of the human
and
body
it's
with the motion
undeniable
tracking,
that
whatever,
like
right?
he is it. It is great visually. Like, I'm not saying it isn't, you know. And
Yeah, and I don't think we're really like arguing here. We're just trying to parse out like
yeah,
why,
and
you
but
know.
also like maybe like I don't know enough, so maybe there is something where you just wouldn't get the same shots in a computer, you know.
Hmm.
But again, I'm not totally sure. But that's kind of why a lot of that stuff kind of fell flat for me because it's kind of just like nothing I'm looking at on screen is real, and these moments are go on a little too long for me.
Mm.
And it's not the world of Avatar is very beautiful. It's like not that different than Earth at times, you know,
Hmm.
and so I'm not like, oh wow, this is a planet where it actually rains going up and it looks seamless. Like it's not that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And
It's
I have some last little notes about that, but I guess let's just talk about the big third act, and then we can kind of start wrapping up.
mhm,
Uh, because this kind of was the big reminder that like, oh yeah, no one really does big scale action like James Cameron.
mhm,
Like the moment those kids start trying to save Paya Khan, the loner whale,
mhm.
it just never lets up until the last minutes of the movie.
Mhm.
And by then I'm like fucking sobbing and embarrassed and shit.
Wasn't
Um,
doesn't the loner whale just like he draws for his blood, doesn't he?
he does, yeah. Like Jake's gonna like sacrifice himself, and the whale's like, "Lord, forgive me
Oh,
for
all
who I'm
right,
about to be again."
all right. Another thing. Another thing. This is something where I just was like, I'm just like, did I miss something? I don't know. Uh, so he's an outcast, right?
Hmm.
Why?
Are you asking me or just rhetorically?
Yes.
Okay, so he took his little coven of whales and another tribe of the Metcaina people to go rally against the humans when they first started whale hunting, and they got wiped out, and he's the only survivor. And so, because those whales don't engage in violence or they don't take lives anymore, that's not part of their whale culture.
Hmm.
He still did, even though it was for a good cause. They're supposed to be like pacifists
Hmm.
or whatever, which is a fucking. What I just said is insane. I
Yeah.
recognize that.
And thank God that none of this is real because that's fucking dumb. But like, whatever. I was so confused when they're like, he took a life. You can't take life. That's bad. And they're like, yeah, but he's defending himself. It's like, yeah, but we believe all life, can't do that shit. That's bad. And I'm like, okay, that's what they believe. Whatever. And then, like, 2 minutes later, it was like, we will now go kill the humans.
Well,
And
they don't follow that code. That's specifically the whale
that's
thing.
bullshit, then. That's so
I'm
dumb. That's
sorry.
so dumb. Sorry, that was a very dumb plot element. I was like,
But why? Why does that have to be done?
because it's like they just want an excuse to be like, why is this whale a loner? And then it was like, well, he did the right thing, so he didn't actually do anything bad. But because of rules that don't exist, he's an outcast. And then it's like, and then going into the third act, it's just like, fuck it. Like, I don't know, maybe have him do something where he was like, I don't know, maybe he was like, I saved my own life by betraying another whale. Like, the humans used me to, like, lure in other unsuspecting whales.
I don't know. I think this is perfectly acceptable.
Yeah, sure. If you like dumb
Um,
things. But
I do, but this one's not
the,
dumb.
the,
But then it's also like an easy layup to connecting with the son who feels like an outcast who can't
yeah,
stop like
like I said,
fucking up.
it's a cheap and easy layup. Like, you're right.
I
I
don't know if
agree
it's
with
cheap.
you. It's just they couldn't, like, why did it have to be that? You couldn't think of anything more compelling.
I don't know if there needs to be like some
There
other
should
like
be.
I don't know, what would you rather like have happen
I
there, I
just said what
guess.
I'd rather have happen there.
Yeah, I think that gets a little too
Maybe
murky.
look, I guess here's what I'm saying. The common theme I think everyone should be picking up on is that I want some like moral conflict in these characters. I want a morally conflicted whale, god damn it. Like, I want the whale to be like, I want the whale to have done a bad thing. He
Mm,
didn't actually do anything wrong.
yeah.
Like, I get that their culture says that killing is bad, but that's a thing they just made up. Like,
Well, here, all the
and this
whales
movie
are
isn't a
Aang.
massive statement on pacifism. This
No,
isn't
no,
like
no.
a
None of the other characters embody that. But here's the thing: all the whales are Aang. That one whale is Korra. There you go.
shut the fuck up. That is what what are you fuck it. It's not that at all.
Yes, it is. Aang doesn't kill. Korra does.
No, but like I'm not talking about if you wanted to make the movie about that, make the movie about that, right? He
Hmm.
didn't want to make the movie about that. He just wanted this outcast. I was like, oh, why is he an outcast? And it's like, he took a life. You're not supposed to do that because of rules. It feels very sweaty.
I don't know. I think it works
There's no
perfectly
grander
fine.
statement. And then again, when the last hour of this movie is just a prolonged revenge sequence against whalers, it's just like, what are we doing here, buddy? Like,
Well, it's not just that. It is also the ending of Titanic. It's the third act of
mhm.
Aliens. It's like it straight up like took the little baby child, literally falls into a hole like Newt, and I was like, he's doing it again. Except I didn't think it was a bad thing. I was like happy.
He pulled one Marvel moment. He did one Marvel moment in this movie.
Okay, what is it?
You know what I'm talking about?
I have no idea.
I can't believe I got tied up again.
Oh, yeah.
I can't believe it. I'm just a little baby.
I like that kid, man.
Yeah.
That's a cute kid.
Kid was fun. Kid was fine.
Yeah.
They were all fine. There was the one that lived and the one that didn't. Like,
no, because the older one has it together. The younger one keeps fucking. The younger one fucks up so bad he gets his brother killed.
Like he's a fuck up.
Which is
also, like I couldn't tell which one was which for most of the movie.
Oh no, the dead one was taller.
I didn't pick up on that at all.
No. Also,
not
I
taller
believe
now, you fuck.
This is also something that I find. Wait, here, go ahead.
No, I was just saying a lot of help that height came in.
Oh.
Fucking dead.
Well, here's something else too. So they mentioned that some of the kids have the traditional Na'vi 3 fingers instead of 4, right? Or 5. They have whatever the fucking. They have the Na'vi fingers and then they have the human fingers.
Which I totally forgot was a thing until they brought it up. But that's just,
yeah.
More of a
So
me thing.
So Loak, the brother who lives, has the human finger count. Kiri has the human finger count. The older brother who has his shit together had the Na'vi finger count, and the youngest daughter has the Na'vi traditional finger count.
Cool.
And I thought that stuff was handled really well. Not the finger stuff specifically, but just like the different like middle child syndrome.
Yeah,
like being unable to fit into a culture that they once felt accepted in and no longer feel accepted in.
Yeah, it is nice when you see Jake Sully go from like, I'm the king of this tribe, I'm king white guy, and then he's like, okay, now he's like a subservient person, like he's lost his sort of power, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was interesting to see, and they were lucky that his old buddy was kind of like very chill about a lot of the goings on.
Mm-hmm.
But is Zoe Saldana going to become like a villain going forward?
I don't know.
Because she, like, it's almost like she's getting, like, she's becoming more of a fanatic by the end of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Like, she wants to fight early on, and Jake Sully's like, no. And then she's like, she's the one who starts calling them demons, right?
Yeah.
Like, she's like, they're demons. They're like a perversion of the Na'vi. And he's like, hey, I was that at one point, but now I'm cool. Right? And she's like, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And then she almost kills Spider. She's like, gonna do it.
Which is fucking nuts.
Yeah, and which is a weird note to take this character. And then her child is Jesus. And it feels like it's ramping up to something. And like, where's that going?
Come back for part 3, I guess.
Yeah, a little nervous about that one. I think it says a lot that, like, I'm looking at the cast on the Way of Water wiki, and every actor has like a full paragraph next to them except Zoe Saldana.
Aww.
It's like Jake Sully, a former blah 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 blah. Sigourney Weaver is Kiri, blah 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 blah. Zoe Saldana and Kiri, daughter of the previous clan chief, and Jake's mate. Ugh, couldn't find a better term to use there.
I know. There is an interesting thing apart from her just going like ballistic in the finale. Early on in the movie, she reminds Jake, like, my dad gave me this bow to like to protect the people.
This will never come into play again. And then she looks at the camera. Like
but then it breaks. She breaks it in her like rage.
Yeah. And
it's like, that was like a moment where I thought like, oh, maybe she's gonna like cool off, and no, she gets worse. Yeah. Although it was pretty fucking awesome when she nailed that chick with the arrow in the eye.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah.
It's fine, and it's a lot better action this time around, kind of all around, in my opinion. I think maybe it was just like not like Avatar was like a train wreck in terms of the action, just like it felt a little more closed in. I think maybe Cameron used this time to get a lot more familiar with this technology,
Hmm.
and so he gets to use it a little better. Um, but yeah, last action sequence is just very good. Like I don't have much to say beyond that, other than there's a little bit of like, we got away, we got to go back. We got away, we got to go back. There's a little bit of that.
There definitely is. I don't know why it doesn't bother
Yeah, it
me
doesn't
here.
bother me a ton, and it's normally like actually a problem I have with like all James Cameron movies. Like every James Cameron movie feels like it has one action sequence too many, and maybe because this one was so kind of limited on the action.
Hmm.
But yeah, it worked. It worked better here than it has other times. Um,
Yeah, like I'll just say, like, cause yeah, we could like break down like all the individual sequences, and it's just like the movie, like when you're writing it a screenplay, you have like 8 sequences, like that. That's like the traditional 3 act structure. The finale has like 8 sequences. The finale has like 3 individual acts, which is nuts. But I'll just say, like, I am flabbergasted of his control of the action because you have to keep track of the motion capturing. You have to keep track of the people who are not motion captured into the scene. They're just humans in the scene. Then you have the 2 levels on the ship. Then the ship starts sinking. Then you have the people in the sky, and then the people in the water, and then under the water. And it's just like, how how do you keep track of
yeah,
that? But he did it.
he's a good director.
So
I
yeah,
mean, that's not up for debate.
yeah.
I'm not gonna make that argument. It's the writing that I tend to get hung up on. And
Hmm.
if you want to go in and just be and then again, like the other thing, and it's totally subjective. I'm just like not super into like Avatar and the Pandora world. You know,
Hmm.
like it's just not the most thrilling thing I've ever seen put on film. And some people clearly feel different. So like if that's your thing, go for it. But yeah, hopefully the writing will get a little better going forward.
Well, you know who took lead on the writing for the next one, right?
No,
From that writer's room?
no.
Our boy Shane Salerno from AVPR.
Ah, well,
I mean, Cameron did a final pass with people named Rick Jaffa and Amanda Silver
mhm.
on the rest of the sequels. Like other people developed the ideas in the room. Everyone went off and did their own screenplay, their full screenplay, right? And then Cameron's like, "All right, great. Now me and my team are gonna punch it up."
Wait, Rick Jaffa and Amanda Silver are also credited on Jurassic World, by the way.
Yes, but also Rise and Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and War for the Planet of the
Yeah,
Apes. Oh no, excuse me. Just producers for War of the Planet of the Apes.
that War of the Planet of the Apes is one of the weirdest goddamn movies.
It is.
It's like
But they're also back writing Kingdom of the Planet of the
who's
Apes.
directing that one?
My boy Wes Ball from the Maze Runner trilogy. He's a good action director.
All right, sure.
I don't
I
know.
mean, it's Planet of the
I've never
Apes.
seen him do a drama, is what I'm saying, but
They're running out of the Planet of the Apes.
yeah.
Remember when the first one was just going to be Rise of the Apes?
Hmm.
And then some idiot was like, "What the fuck are you doing? Call it Planet of the Apes."
Yeah. That's probably why it
Oh, they
was a
also
surprise
wrote
hit.
Mulan. That's not a good sign
Oh no.
because that is
Yeah, okay, but
that
they
is one
also
of
wrote
the
The Relic, the Peter Hyams movie.
yeah,
I like The Relic.
sure. Um, but Mulan is like one of the worst screenplays in like the last decade.
Wouldn't know. Didn't watch it.
Yeah, it's just well,
Not going
it's a
to.
weird one
But
where you have another movie that's just like, okay, just do that, like, just do that script and it'll work, and then they just didn't do that. So, um, hey, what are you
hmm.
what are you gonna do? Except you make a
Yeah.
good movie at some fucking point.
Yeah. Just like Avatar: The Way of
Yeah,
Water.
I don't know. I
Okay.
don't have the highest hopes for it at this point, but
Okay.
hopefully,
Hey, maybe that's the one that works for you.
maybe. Who fucking knows?
Yeah.
Um,
I just want to close out then with the big finale shit. Speaking of easy ways out, I do have a little like I didn't really have a problem with like, oh, they're gonna bring this up in the sequel until when Miles saves his dad, Spider saves his dad. I was like, this might be the one where I'm a little middle of the road on it, whether or not I like it.
hmm.
Um, But I do understand. Hey, some people have fucked up relationships with their parents. You know,
Well, that
and
one
even if you hate
worked.
them, you don't want to see them die.
That one worked for me just because it was like by that point he literally saved him. Like Stephen
Hmm.
Lang was like he was like, you think I care if you kill a kid? And then he's like, wait, don't kill him. Like that was
Yeah.
literally it did he did put himself out there, so I can see the kid being like, fuck, I don't like this guy, but he did save my life.
Yeah,
Like
and he does get the one f bomb in the movie when he goes back and he's like, "Fuck." So it's not like he did it like
I was
happily.
a little more like, I guess Jermaine Clement's coming back, right? Like he's credited in 3. Like it says he's gonna be back.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was like,
yeah.
what
He
happened to
is in there.
him? Like,
Hmm. Okay, that's one thing I didn't notice till after, which I would argue is a testament to the strength of the movie. Or I was like, wait, 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 wait. I was walking to my car, like, where'd the rest of them go?
yeah.
I was like,
That was well because he was so set up as like he's clearly the like I mean it's the first movie again where it's like there's the liberal ass pussy scientists and then there's the military and they're in direct conflict, right? It's like,
Mhm.
why does this guy care? He's like, oh, he's just the marine biologist. Like again, and then the other guy's like, I love making money off of murdering whales. And so I was just like, okay, so like maybe he's gonna come back at some point and like do something, and instead it's like, well, no. He just kind of goes, see, I told you. Like as the other guy gets his arm ripped off.
Yeah, that was kind of. I wanted more from him. Apparently, Mark
I
Maron
heard that.
was up for
Yeah,
that. Yeah, he could have done
Mirren's
that.
almost too cynical for that character.
No, no, I think that's the right amount of cynical.
No, because here's the thing, Marin like can't not fucking tell someone to fuck off. Like Marin's like famous for like burning bridges. Like it would have been like he would have been on the job for like a week, and he's like, you know what the fuck I think of this operation? Then he's on a fucking rocket back home. Like, whereas you need someone you could credibly believe has some diplomatic skills, uh, working on the
Maybe,
thing.
maybe. Bring Marin in as a Navi.
No, I don't want to
No.
see that. That'll haunt me.
um.
Definitely don't
All
want to
right.
see
So you
that.
said you had no emotional attachment to any of this. I was basically like the first
I
watch.
don't want
I'm
to
just
say
like a blubbering
zero
mess.
emotional attachment. Like I definitely was like, oh, it is sad that the kid died. Like,
Hmm.
but I wasn't like, oh, how could he? Like I wasn't like, oh, he said I see you. That's the thing. Like
No,
I
when
wasn't.
the son was like, "I want to go home," I was like, "Oh fuck, that got me." And the second time I was watching it, I was like, "Okay," like I felt it like in my chest, and I was like, "No, no, I'm cool, I'm
Yeah.
cool." And then it starts really getting to me when Loak goes in and saves Jake, and Jake's like, "I can't do it," and he fucking calls him the other son's name first, and he's like, "No, it's me, Dad." I was like, "Oh my god, this is like brutal." Oh my god. And then he's given the speech that the princess gave him about the way of water connects all things and all that shit. And I was like, what is this doing to me? I can honestly say I don't think I've ever been this moved by a James Cameron movie.
Mhm.
Like outside of Terminator 2 and Titanic, which just like destroy me. um and I'm like the aliens guy, you know? But I'm not like moved by that the same way. I'm like, fuck yeah, the whole time. um and then I do pretty good as they're doing the funeral. It's still sad, and the moment they connect to that underwater tree, and they see the little kid again, I'm like, oh boy, here it comes, and then Jake starts crying, and the son's like, why are you crying, Dad? I was like, fuck, it's over, it's over for me at that point. I'm ruined. Um, and I love this
When he
movie.
said, "I want to go home," I thought of when Bubba said that in Forrest Gump.
Boo.
Sorry, it is where my brain went.
Boo.
Also, doesn't Giovanni Ribisi say that in Saving Private Ryan?
No, he starts calling for his
Oh,
mom,
okay,
which is
yeah.
just like fucking brutal too.
There's a lot of guys calling for their moms on that beach in Normandy. It's almost like
Hmm.
war's a bad thing.
Yeah.
Hey, it's not the sexiest thing to ever happen.
Yeah,
Hey,
you hear that.
revenge against whalers.
No, no, that's actually good though.
What if the seed bearer though is just like a code word for someone who like blows up oil pipelines?
Well, did you see that one tweet that was like going
I did
viral?
see that. Yeah, maybe
I don't want to say it, but
maybe we can't repeat that one.
yeah,
um, I also saw the
yeah. Sorry, not sharing that
I
one.
also saw the one that was really funny where it was Spielberg says he regrets Jaws leading to like people killing sharks, and someone was like he just saw Way of Water. Like,
Yeah, that one we can repeat. The other one, thumbs up, comrade.
I don't know. I don't know what I want to go on record saying. Although there is a documentary out called "How to Blow Up a Pipeline,"
Yeah.
which is a documentary that exists on the planet Earth.
Yep.
Um,
Here it's pretty good.
yeah. I'm only going to say it exists on Earth.
I haven't seen it,
Um,
for the record.
yeah, and it's called "How to Blow Up a Pipeline," which is a documentary that was released this year. Is that what it's called? I can't Google that
No,
title.
it is called How to Blow Up a
I
Pipeline.
can't Google that title
I know.
for reasons.
Just look up pipeline documentary,
Yeah,
film,
yeah,
movie.
yeah, pipeline movie. Um, yeah.
We're all gonna end up in a prison.
I got a movie called Pipeline. Pipeline how-to movie. Um,
You haven't seen New Girl, right?
no, I have not.
All right. There's one bit where a cop is coming over to make sure one of their roommates is like eligible for the police force. This was written by liberals in 2013, so just work with me here. And like one of the guys can't lie, so he's just like he's locked in a room with the cop, and he's like, "You want to know everything? Fine. I didn't think I'd get an erection after I turned 15. I didn't get an erection for a full year. I thought they were done. I thought my penis was dead. It's over. I wasn't trying to blow up, trying to build a bomb. I was just Googling out of curiosity." Like, he just goes on, and he seems like the kind of guy who would like that movie.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say.
So yeah, it's called How to Blow Up a Pipeline, and it's from the director of the movie Cam, which is a movie I really liked.
Oh, yeah, I like that movie, too.
One of the few movies that kind of like is about the perils of sex work, which without like being demeaning about it, which feels shockingly rare, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
And also being just kind of a very solid horror movie. I recommend Cam.
Would you recommend The Way of Water?
I don't know.
Okay.
I feel like anyone who's listening to this has already seen it. I mean,
Probably.
it feels like everyone is just going to see it. I don't know anyone who's like on the fence, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone's kind of like, well, we got to see what the fuck it is. Most people seem to like it. I appear to be in the minority in that I think it's just okay. And I think it'll remain that way for me going forward. I honestly can't see myself going back to it. At least anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of like I don't know. Parts of it were just kind of like it was such a slog, man. I mean, I was really fucking bummed out for like the first half of this movie. Like, I cannot overstate how fucking bummed I was watching it. Like, and I really had to like force myself to be like, you are not allowed to hate this movie. Like, I was basically like yelling that at myself for most of the movie. And it was one of those things where, like, even if it had never gotten better, I still would like have to give it 3 stars on like a technicality, you know, because it is a very well-made movie. But I found the first chunk of it so depressing and bad. And then I also had the specter of what people that might have been like a bigger problem is that like the specter of like what people were describing the movie as, which ended up being inaccurate in my opinion. Was hanging over me, and I'm like, well, if that's what I have to look forward to, then this is just going to be a bad fucking time. And then, thankfully, the movie wasn't about those things. So,
Mm-hmm. Do you like it more than Top Gun Maverick? Because that seems to be the other really popular blockbuster.
Ooh, that's an interesting question.
Because I like that movie more than you. I don't love it, and I definitely don't think it's
That's
comparable
actually
to
a tough
this for
one
me.
because I think because there's like an earnestness to Avatar: The Way of Water, I might give it like the point over it. Top Gun Maverick's point though is that it's a lot shorter,
No.
which I do think matters a lot. Like it is one of those. It like right now when I'm sitting here being like, what would I rather watch? It might be Top Gun Maverick just because it's shorter, but I think like on a spiritual level, it might be Way of Water. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with Way of Water. I think it's better than Top Gun Maverick.
All right.
Which was a movie I just didn't care for.
We got him.
And so, but like, I mean, what did I watch recently? Watched Wendell and Wild. I like that more than Avatar.
Okay.
The Henry Selick stop motion movie. What else came out this year?
You know, I actually have my list. I'm going to share it soon because I'm almost caught up. I did catch up with Wendell and Wild, by the way, and it's fantastic. Everyone massively undersold that movie.
Yeah, people are fucking wrong about that one.
Yeah, that's Nope, The Fablemans,
Like,
RRR,
Nope, Fableman's like those a lot more.
Crimes of the Future.
You know what? I still haven't seen it. That might be a watch soon. Although, like I said, I was so like Avatar really bummed me out. Where it kind of like I was on like a high after the Fablemans that I've been like watching a lot of movies, and Avatar kind of like that was like the end of it. Like that was like the sobering up moment. And I'm like, I'm gonna take a break from movies for a little bit.
Did you ever see Turning Red?
No, you told me to.
Yeah, telling you again right fucking now. Watch it.
You think I'll like it more than Avatar?
Yes.
All right.
Might make you angrier, but you'll like it more.
Because they don't bring up 9/11.
Yeah, they hit the fucking Pentagon.
They hit the fucking Pentagon.
Like, I think someone said, like, Home Tree in the first Avatar. It's like Na'vi 9/11.
Hey, they seem to bounce back better than we did. Oh, you know what? I saw part of Black Adam.
Have you seen Decision to Leave yet?
No, I want to see it though.
Yeah,
is it streaming?
Movie. It's on Mubi now.
Okay,
yeah.
I'll watch it.
Yeah,
because
Glass Onion, which you and I both liked, and no one's super fucking weird about.
I'm gonna piss a lot of people off by saying I did like that more than Avatar.
I didn't, but like I don't. People are fucking just strange about that movie in general, and that filmmaker, frankly, which means he's tapping into something. So
is there like Catholic guilt, but for film Twitter?
Maybe
because it's like they enjoyed a Star Wars movie and now they don't know what to do. Because like if you're Catholic, if you have any pleasure in life, like you're going to hell. So.
Yeah, that's why Daredevil's such a fucking fascinating character. Like he hates himself constantly, but he's like can't stop fucking. I respect that. Yeah, maybe that's why people don't like the Knives Out stuff.
I will say, I think I know what my New Year's resolution is.
Deleting Twitter?
No, to delete my Letterboxd.
Oh, okay. I use it to log too much stuff.
I think what I'm just gonna do is I'm just gonna delete it and then I'm just gonna log movies and just kind of be like, okay, here's what I saw, and then I'm not gonna follow anyone.
Oh, that's pretty smart.
But, hey, Fableman still might be best movie of the year.
Yeah, Fablemans and Nope are neck and neck for me, for sure. Like I don't really care which one ends up number one or number two. Like those are the number one for me. Like
have you seen
those are just outstanding.
Have you seen Bones and All?
Not yet, but I heard it described as Luca's Near Dark, and I was like, well, gotta watch it.
Yeah, it's a little bit like that. Although, like, my joke. Do you know what it's about?
Yeah, it's in the title. It's cannibalism.
Yeah, so I kind of said, finally, a movie that de-glamorizes the lives of cannibals. You know, like, Near Dark is kind of like de-glamorizing the vampire thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's like, oh, it's not sexy. It's gross and, like, depressing.
Yeah, you know, cannibalism isn't that sexy. Armie Hammer. But
that's why he made that after that movie.
Yeah, exactly. But it was one of those where, like, I watched it was very well made, but, like, it wasn't for me. You know,
Hmm. Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not not my cup of tea. But I could see someone really like it. Another director that people just are mad at because he
Hmm.
remade Suspiria.
Yeah, and it's like, hey, with James Cameron, at least people generally, like the people worth listening to, are at least mad because it's like, hey, maybe there's some weird like cultural appropriation and indigenous feelings
Yeah,
being stolen here
I don't
that
even want to
uh
say.
maybe we should focus on,
Yeah,
frankly.
I don't even want to say Luca remade Suspiria. He basically just made a movie called Suspiria. You know, like
Yeah, he
it's
kind of took like the framework of it, and he's like, this is a totally different thing,
yeah, it's like a
which is how you should remake stuff, frankly,
yeah.
because you already have that original version.
I think because there was an initial wave when that movie came out where people are like, "This is better than the original Suspiria." You remember that?
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
people were kind of
Well,
like,
that's just how so many people talk about movies in general now. Like, it's the best X movie since X, Y, or Z.
"Yeah,
It's the best since the original. You know, so my joke about Avatar too is it's the best Avatar since the
yeah,
original.
hey."
Like, that's what you fucking people sound like all the time. I had people fucking tell me Scream 2022 was the best one since the
That's
original.
psychotic."
Yeah,
Like
no,
I'm not even
everyone
gonna.
needs
If you
help.
like Scream, the new Scream, like fine. Like I'm not gonna really get that angry about it. But
I will.
like I know you will.
I'll
You took that one a
fucking
lot
hunt these
harder
people
than
down.
I did. Like
I
I
did.
didn't
That's
like that movie, but I also like I wasn't like fuck this.
no, it's like my enemy now
Uh,
to the point where like I do hate it now.
I think it's
Like it's
just
just it's
because
soiled for me.
Wes Craven has unfortunately passed. It's very easy for me to just be like, oh shit, hit my head. Um,
Oh, you good?
I'm fine. I'm fine.
Okay.
It's very easy for me to just be like, well, that's just a different thing, you know. It's like
Hmm.
this is what Scream 2 would have been had Wes Craven not done it, right? So I can
Yeah.
kind of just go like, okay, it's just a slasher movie. I don't care. Like it's over, you know.
Hmm.
I don't really think there was a way there was gonna be a good Scream 5, in my opinion. But for if it's just a slasher movie, it's like okay, whatever. But hey,
I'm kind of hoping I have that reaction to the next one because I probably will end up watching it unless I hear it's like monumentally stupid or something. Like just do a good slasher. I don't give a fuck about the sanctity or the legacy or whatever. Just fucking kill people in New York City.
yeah.
In the film. In the film.
If they're-
In the fictional film.
Hey, they got to cut
in the
funding to all their libraries to stop the crime wave that's happening in the safest fucking territory in the United States.
I know, I just thought about this right now. That fucking piece of shit mayor's gonna have a fucking field day.
Yeah.
We got ghost faces running around our subway system.
So maybe that's what the movie should be about. Maybe there is no Ghostface killer and it's just people panicking.
Hey, don't give away my ideas.
Right.
you know,
You know what though? I gotta say, fucking, it was so disgusting being in New York that like you can tell they've like upped the police presence in that city because
that's
there's
disgusting.
cops on like literally every block and all they're doing is directing traffic. Like they're not even doing anything. So good job, Eric Adams or whatever the fuck your name is.
His name's not important.
Adamant. Um,
Last thing, and then I'll finally let you go. So Avatar 2, 3, and Part of 4 were filmed back to back. James Cameron has gone on record saying, we are going to get to Earth in one of the sequels. Now, 2 and 3 were filmed completely back to back because of the kids' ages. This has also been stated and declared. Part of 4 has only been filmed. Then there is supposed to be a 6-year time jump.
mm.
The amount of time it takes for the humans to get to Pandora in canon is 6 years. I think we're going to Earth in Part 4. And I know you don't really care, but I thought that was interesting,
No,
and I think I'm correct.
I do think that is interesting. I mean, what is it? Like, there's a lot of ways that could go, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because again, like he says, we're going to get to Earth at some point. Now that honestly, that quote could mean anything. It could just mean like we're going to see what Earth looks like,
Mm-hmm.
which whatever. I uh,
Did I lose you?
No, I'm thinking hard.
Okay.
It's it there's a lot of ways that storyline could go. Um, I'm assuming it's gonna be Jake Sully is like we have to go to Earth to save Earth for some reason, right?
Mm.
Like that's just I'm just assuming that. I don't know. Do you think that it would be something along that
I
line?
think that's exactly what's gonna
Yeah.
happen.
So then it's like, oh, we got the seed bearer, whoever the fuck that is.
I think it's Kiri.
And then he's like, and the seed bearer is like, okay, where are all the pipelines at? And then it's like, well, they're on Earth. And like, okay, let's go and do something to the pipelines. Um, and then they're gonna plant a tree on Earth. It would be my
Yeah,
guess.
I think eventually they will bring Awa to Earth.
Yeah,
Because if Awa is not like a true deity, like in the way of Thor or like God is in Catholicism, right? Awa is like the planet, like you mentioned, which I think is a fascinating idea that I can't even pin that down yet. Then then you're it's an Awa propaganda narrative
Mhm.
then. And no, I'm joking,
No,
but
no,
like
no. I get what you're saying.
because in the first film, Jake is like, there's no green there anymore
Mm.
on Earth. Like, it's all just all fucked up and it's all cluttered and hey, I can't relate to that at all. But like that does seem like an arc of the film and kind of leads more into interesting territory than just good versus bad, which is I think your big
Yeah,
criticism of
but
this
I
stuff
am a little
too.
nervous about the type of narrative where it's like, okay, they're coming to save us, right? So it's
Hmm.
like a
Yeah, because
it's
that might be a little
yeah.
shallow as
Well,
well.
no, but it's also a little bit like, what do people think America's doing when we invade countries half the time?
Hmm.
Like we always say we're going to help them, and we're not. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. It could go a lot of ways. Um, be interesting if it was literally like we're bringing Awe to the thing, and then it's like, okay, what if Awe's like actually like kind of like evil though, and it's like this was Awe's plan all along.
It's like Darth
It's like a
Sidious.
planet eater, like
Oh my god.
it's like Hellstar, whatever the fuck. Like,
Don't. That's fucking horrifying.
yeah, hey, could be Hellstar is like evil Pandora.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
There is. This is the last thing, last
what is
theory
the
I'll bring
wait? All
up.
right, so Awe's the god, right?
Awa,
Awa,
yes.
Awa, sorry.
Mm.
Awe is, I think, Lord of the Rings god. um,
Yahweh, as I believe, God in Judaism.
yeah,
Right.
Yahweh, I believe, is the original name of the Abrahamic god.
Mm.
Um, which there's, I think that changes multiple times, but yeah, what's the planet called? No,
Pandora.
but like, what do they call it?
Huh.
Did I just
I
do
think they just call it Pandora.
slightly more world thinking than?
I think they just call it Pandora. But I don't know. Maybe they don't need to worry about the name
I mean,
of
it's
the
like
world.
Japan isn't Japan. You know that, right? Like,
Hmm?
Japan has a completely different name.
What?
Isn't it like it's like Nihon or something like that?
Is it? I took Japanese in high school, but I failed it.
All
So
right, hold on. Japan name. Yeah, Nihon or Nippon.
mm.
Um,
Oh, maybe it's like that. Yeah.
which I think,
Maybe the planet is just Awa, and you're correct.
but I don't know. I don't know. Again, I'm not smart enough to say like, because it's like, what does that translate to? And it says it translates to Japan, but I'm like, I don't know what that means. I'm not good enough with languages. So, but there are like, that's actually something I've wondered a lot because like we're having this discussion right now about like Confederate statues and shit like that, and it's like Mount Rushmore is like literally built on like a sacred indigenous people's mountain, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like I was thinking, like all these like all our states are like New York, like they're all named after like Virginia, which is like the Virgin land and shit like that. Like, is there any push to like start naming certain geographical places, like to name them before what they were called before that was colonized? I feel like I could get behind that. Think
Yeah,
about
I
Africa
think.
too. Africa has a lot of that, where it's like a lot of
Mhm,
the official names of places are what like European empires called them. I'm
mhm.
like, shouldn't we change those names?
Yeah. Well, like Yucatan in Mexico. You know what that means?
Hmm.
I don't understand.
Oh, wow. All
Yeah.
right, that makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense.
It is not actually called that, or was not actually called that
Hmm.
until the Spaniards came over.
Wow.
And once you hear that, it's like, oh, we're fucking living in the most fucked up world
Yeah. Well, I mean,
ever.
think about how long it was like kind of just fine to just call indigenous people Indians,
Yeah. And
like,
it's
which is
like,
like
wait.
literally just being like, why are they called that? Well, it's like because Columbus was a fucking idiot. Like,
Yeah.
and it's like we didn't think to change it once we knew he was wrong, and it's like not really, like,
Hmm.
which is just insane. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I I feel like I would be like I feel like people would be fine with that one. I mean, conservatives won't because they're angry about everything. But
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that's one of those ones where I'm like, why don't we just start changing the names of shit back to what they were?
Hmm.
And then we could also like I think that would be better for history than to just have like 17 like have 17 Georgetowns in on the fucking East Coast or whatever. Or Lafayette, named after Lafayette, the Frenchman who fought with us during the Revolution.
Oh, I thought it was after the character in True Blood.
Hey.
True Blood reference? Anybody?
Remember that
Anybody still
show?
remember that show? I do remember that show.
Any good?
It was very saucy. It was very saucy for a couple of years.
All right.
A lot of blood and sex.
Remember when people were like the advertising for it was like, the vampires have come out of the coffin, like come out of the closet.
Yeah.
That was we were still because gay marriage still wasn't legal in 50 states,
Mm-hmm.
which it seems like that's going to be like a now like 5 year period of American history. But yeah, remember when that was like a thing?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was vampirism. It's just like homosexuality. That's a good
Yep. Yep.
metaphor.
Hey, when Alan Ball was in charge of it, though, it was pretty like creatively exciting.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
I,
sure.
I think that's a talented
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
Although he did write American Beauty, so I don't know.
I mean, there's okay stuff in American Beauty surrounded by shit. Like,
Yeah.
they should have picked maybe one story to do.
Hey, maybe not everything you do in life is a winner. That's
Yeah.
fine.
How old was he when he wrote American Beauty, though? That is an important question.
Let me see. And I have it on good authority that he is a quite stand-up creative and good collaborator. So that's better than anything, really.
Yeah. I thought Colin
Let's
Trevor
see,
was an alright
65.
guy.
Yeah, like what? How does that happen? Anyways,
Like I
Alan
said, your work
Ball's.
does not reflect your quality as a person.
Yeah, I think I brought up Chinatown a couple times. I'm like, I rewatched it recently, like for the first time this year in like a long time, and I was like, fucking God, what a fucking movie, and what a piece of shit person who made it. Okay, Alan Ball is 65 right now. He's probably like in his early 30s when he wrote American Beauty, probably younger if it took a while to get made.
It kind of has
You
to
know.
be under 25 for me to be okay with that.
Okay.
That's all I'm gonna say.
All right.
And
All
maybe he
right.
sold it when he was that young. You know,
Mm-hmm.
shit happens. Um. Anyway,
Anyway,
the way of
Alan Ball
water.
is not an Avatar.
The
Yeah, Way of
way,
Water.
the way of water.
You gave it 3.5 stars on Letterboxd, right?
Yeah, and I gave two very mean one sentence reviews.
Okay. I gave it the full 5
I
stars.
said
We never
same
do
shit,
this.
just longer.
I'd say we averaged to about 1,000,000 stars
And then-
for this excellent movie.
Then the one I posted last night, I just wrote it insists upon itself
No, a lot of Family Guy references in my life lately.
because we're at the mark where we're finally nostalgic for it.
Oh, maybe.
We've hit that, and we're also kind of like, remember old Family Guy? That was funny,
Yeah.
and it kind of was.
Yeah, for fucking teenagers on the internet, it was fucking mind blowing.
Mhm.
I wasn't even a teenager when I started
Yeah, but
watching clips like on YouTube.
arc of like how quickly Family Guy went from being liked to hated was fairly quick.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? I think it was the South Park episode that kind of did it.
Yeah.
Like, you think
That
that's
was
bad?
genuinely clever.
Which is now just how we write Marvel movies.
Mm-hmm.
But
Which is not how James Cameron seems to be writing these Avatar sequels,
No.
at least, though, with his team.
I actually
At the
still
very
can't
least,
really-
I hope you find comfort in that.
Yeah, hey. Movie's fine. The Way of Water. Um, every time you say that quote about the way of the water, way of the water, the way of water, like I kind of like roll my eyes a little bit if I'm being honest.
Yeah, it's very silly.
It's silly.
I'm amazed it works on me.
In a way that's like not like that engaging. It's one of those things where like you hear that sentence and then I'm like, yeah, that doesn't mean anything. Like, yeah, water connects things. Okay. Like,
Well, here, I'm trying to figure out for myself why this one connected with me so much more emotionally, and I'm not going to have an answer as we wrap up in these final moments of this podcast, because we've been going on for like 12 hours. But like, I just keep thinking back to the first one. I'm like, I like the ideas of this, and I do like that movie a lot. But again, I don't connect to it like emotionally. You know, I'm really there for like watching the pretty colors and stuff, and like I'm cool without the action in that movie even, and I think it's great action. But like, this is the one where like, you know, I'm thinking back to when they say "I see you," I'm like, oh, that's such a beautiful saying, like with the meaning behind it and stuff like that. And then this one, when Jake finally tells his kid like, "I see you, son," like he accepts his failures and his hopes and dreams and like his potential. I'm like, fuck, it like, why does that work here for me? And I don't know yet, but I don't know. I'm gonna watch it like a dozen more times in my lifetime easily. So maybe I'll figure it
I
out.
might give it another shot when the third one's coming out.
Yeah, do it like I did with Halloween Kills. And maybe you'll finish yours.
Halloween Kills, good movie.
No. But Halloween Ends is. So.
All right, do I like Halloween Ends more than Way of Water?
If you do, I'm not even going to be mad. That's amazing.
I might. I mean,
Yeah, I like that movie a lot. That's in my top 15 of the year.
yeah.
And everyone just unfollowed me on Twitter.
That was it's one of those ones where I admire it more than maybe I enjoy the execution, you know. But yeah, engaging movie. I probably feel about equal.
Actually, you know what? Not in my top 15. It's been a very good year for
It
me.
actually has. It actually has been a pretty good year, unless you're a psychopath. But
Yeah.
actually, no, it's been a dog shit year for movies. The Batman, dog shit. Everything Everywhere All at Once, dog shit. X, dog shit. The Northman, dog shit. Elvis, most people like that. Pearl, dog shit. These are just movies I've seen people be very angry about. Oh, here's a good one, Morbius.
I saw that on TikTok. They compressed it down into a single minute, and it's the only way I'll ever watch that movie.
It's probably the best way. This is the way it was intended.
Yeah. Although I will shout out my buddies over at that 90s Spider-Man Show podcast. They sat down to watch it for their Patreon. They just uploaded it to the public, the recording they did on the Morbius movie. There's no way that movie's more entertaining than that podcast, so go give them a listen.
There you go.
Yeah. Matt, thanks for joining me.
Is it weird
I don't
that
know
like The Way of Water is like so much about whales and like The Whale came out the same weekend?
Darren Aronofsky saw what the movie was about, and he was like, "Yeah, I could probably whip
that's
that out
what would
in a
have
couple
made the
months."
movie great. The Whale should have been voiced by Brendan Fraser.
Aw.
It's not like a mean comment. I just wanted Brendan Fraser.
No, I know. I like Brendan Fraser's like comeback.
Yeah,
I'm like excited.
It's
about
weird,
it. I'm
like,
like,
people-
I think it's sweet.
yeah. I think The Whale is not gonna totally be that.
No, I go with God, everyone who watches that. Go with AWA. I'm gonna start saying that now. I say it with the same reverence.
Yeah, it seems like the reviews I'm looking at right now, it's like 1/2 star, 2 stars, 1/2 star. Like the only positive one is from Dan Doherty.
I'll always have Noah and the wrestler,
Yeah.
Darren Aronofsky.
How
like
long is The
those.
Whale? 2 hours. It's gonna be a lot.
Yeah, I'm okay.
I might,
Good luck with
I
that
might
one,
go
though.
see it. I don't know. I'm
Yeah,
like up in the air about it.
I need to see Aronofsky only when he fucking swings wildly, and this one doesn't look like a wild swing. This one looks like Requiem for a Dream levels of depressing, and I don't need
Yeah,
that from him. I don't think he's got a handle on that emotional side of that.
I could go to the movies sometime this week and see The Whale and Babylon, and then never watch a movie ever again for the rest of my life.
Oh, because you'll be on such a high.
Yes,
You
like
don't want to
it's
ruin
never
that.
gonna get better than this.
Yeah, I still kind of like Damien Chazelle.
Yeah, you made that movie once. You made First Man.
Yeah, I
You
like that
remember
one.
that movie?
I do. I still like La La
There's
Land.
this,
Just in the aftermath of West Side Story, it's like, probably didn't need that.
we should have known something was wrong with Damien Chazelle when his protagonist in Whiplash goes to see a revival screening of Rafifi. Like, no one does that. Like, we do that, but we're weirdos.
He probably does that,
Yeah,
and
he
that's why
probably
he,
does
he
that,
wrote that.
but
Yeah.
no normal person does that.
Hmm.
Only very sick people do that.
Let me just cancel my ticket for Rafifi real quick. Yeah.
Real bold move to cast Ryan Gosling as Neil Armstrong and then destroy all charisma.
Aww. All right, Matt. That's it. That's
I,
it for
I,
the Way
I
of
liked Way
Water.
of Water more than First Man.
There we go.
So there's one.
Me too.
Um,
All right. Do you want to plug anything? Because I know we're in a weird spot with social media right now.
yeah, I'm like kind of on Twitter, but not really, so don't bother. I'm
Mm.
occasionally posting on Tumblr. I think I'm gonna start. I'm starting to like scale things back a little bit, so like I might not really be anywhere in the near future except for the Waffle Press Discord. Um, yeah, I might just bully Diego into giving me my own corner of that Discord,
Yeah. Fuck it.
and then I'll
You
just
could have one.
post my thoughts and pick fights
Yeah.
with people.
Do it.
But yeah, I'm not nowhere really important. Do we want to mention what's coming up?
Do we officially decide on it?
Well, I thought we were going into the retrospective we've been talking about.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that's for sure. We're doing that one.
Yeah, I think so.
Failed Award Contenders Season 2.
Yeah, it's time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Alien Covenant. Your time is now.
we're not doing Alien Covenant.
All right.
We already did Alien Covenant.
I know, but we should look back. It's gonna be 6 years in
Yeah.
March. No, May.
Yeah.
Fuck.
There was a
Oh my
moment. I will say
God.
this: there was a moment when I was watching Way of Water where I hated it as much as I hate Alien Covenant.
That's absurd.
So, but thankfully, Way of Water improved in a way
Just
that
like
in a
Alien
way that
Covenant
Alien
does.
Covenant never could.
Well, because it starts on a high and it just keeps going.
Yeah, down.
No, no.
It does
Great
start on a
film.
high. What's his name dies like 3 seconds into that movie.
Yeah, that's pretty
So
great.
that is a high. I will not disagree.
Actually, it opens up with the conversation between David and Guy Pearce.
Okay, so it actually does start very low.
No, that might be the best scene in the movie.
Possibly the most boring character ever committed to cinema.
All right.
David.
Anyways, I'll give
He's
one
a
away.
robot.
David should be in the Avatar.
No, he
movies.
shouldn't. Keep that fucker as far away as fucking humanly possible.
All right, here's the one movie I'll give away that we're going to talk about. You ready? We're talking about Mank.
Mank.
I won't say when.
Yeah, we haven't picked an order yet.
No, I've just been I put numbers next to them, and then my phone did the thing where it was like, oh, you want to organize it numerically, and I was like, well, I just wanted to keep track of how many we're doing, but I guess so. Mank is currently number 8. I do not know if it will stay there.
Yeah. We'll see.
Might be the first one. It might be the last one.
Yeah. We should start with a bad movie. so I think I know which one.
Do you, oh, there's one.
There's-
I was like, which one? And then it just popped out
Yeah,
at me.
there's one that like is undeniably bad.
Some people tried to reclaim it.
Who are these people?
I can't quite get there with all of you. But go with Awa. May the way of water guide you to the truth of cinema.
Just one last thing. When you like say like the Avatar like Pandora shit, right?
Mhm.
It's like I feel like I'm appropriating someone's culture. Like it doesn't feel good to say.
Look. The truth is, it's just fucking weird. And if you're not on board with it, I really can't like disagree with that notion at all.
I'm not even trying to make like a moral statement. I'm just like
No. I get
weird.
it. Like it just feels strange. It's very weird. I don't know. I'm not trying to cop out for myself. I genuinely, I'm not an authority on this, and I don't know. If someone comes at me and says like, "Hey, you should reconsider, like, talking like fictional characters because it's like there's so many signifiers to just like straight up cultural appropriation in these, right? That if someone like asks me to like refrain from doing so, I'm gonna listen."
Oh, hey, shout out to the country of New Zealand, which gave a tax rebate of up to 25%, possibly 40%, to Avatar: The Way of Water. So thanks for paying for this, New Zealanders.
Thank you.
That's the country all the billionaires are fleeing to, by the way. So,
well, they need to find Awa too.
yeah, they're trying to. They think funding this movie through tax dollars, but they're probably also cheating on is their way to do it. They would get
I don't know,
Giovanni
money's not
Ribisi in
real.
old man makeup in Avatar, whatever the fuck.
No, I don't think he needs to be an old man makeup. He'll just be old.
Well,
It's been 13 years.
Yeah, but it'll be like it's all right. So he had to take 6 years back, and then 6 years for the soldiers to get there again, and then 6 years again. That's a good amount of time.
Maybe he doesn't pop up until Avatar 4.
He looks like Guy Pearce in Prometheus.
God, that makeup so fucking bad. I like that movie now. I have no excuse for whatever that was.
It's weird.
Unlike Avatar: Way of Water, which is a great movie. Matt, thanks for joining me. Happy New Year. I guess we'll talk soon. Everyone else you'll hear us talk soon. And yeah, enjoy the movies. I don't really have a sign off for the end of the year.
Yeah, you already saw this fucking thing. You probably didn't like anything I had to say about it. So go fuck yourselves.
Goodbye, Jonathan Demme.
Goodbye.
I see
Jimmy
you.
Foster.
I see you.
Goodbye.
We cannot let you bring your war here.
Outcast. That's all they see.
I see you.
The way of water connects all things. Before your birth and after your death.
This is our home!
I need you with me. And I need you to be strong.